Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Marcia Week Show. You are watching us live from Barbados. Beautiful, beautiful Barbados. Yes, and we want to welcome everybody who's joining from the rest of the Caribbean region, from the US, from the UK, the world. Oh my goodness, it's a beautiful evening. It's great to be alive. It's great to be here with you. It's Friday evening. Where else? It's beautiful, beautiful, beautiful evening. And so I want to go right ahead and to welcome everybody who's joined. There's Michael Jilks is here. Peter King is also here. And this is great, Peter. I trust you had a wonderful day. I'm really hoping you had a wonderful day. Lucinda Allen, good evening. Good evening, Lucinda. It's great to see everybody. Listen, we just want to have a great family chat. We want to have a family chat right here on the show tonight, folks, and I hope we are ready. I want us to call in when it's time between 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock. We want to talk about what's happening in Barbados. We want to talk about what's happening in the region. We want to look at what's happening in the world, right? And how it affects us all. So we're going to ask you kindly to call in. Let me put the number up there real early for you. And I'm sure you should know the number by now, right? You should know the number by now. We want you in the early. Get ready, get ready, get ready to call in. We're going to have some discussions. We have quite a number of things happening right here in Barbados, quite a number happening in the Caribbean and lots in the world. And those things that are happening in the world, they're affecting us right here in the region and right here in Barbados. And so we're going to ask you to call in between 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. Okay? 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. Now, the question is, what are we going to be talking about tonight? Well, Teroni, welcome, welcome, welcome. Let me welcome the people. CG, good evening, CG. How are you? CG, tonight we are going to continue to look at the violence that is happening in Barbados. Okay, we're seeing an increase in violence in our schools. We're going to look at some of those videos. We just got reports tonight, this evening. It just came to my phone after 4 o'clock, where there was another stabbing at Graydon Sealy. I have also a picture of another young man from another school from St. George, his face all cut up. Listen, guys, there's just so much happening in our schools with our young people, with our children. First formers, second, all the way to fifth formers, trouble within our school system. And we should not be surprised because guess what? It's happening in the society. So what do we expect? Our children are living what they're learning. And so it's going right in, Queen Bee. That's why. So we're going to talk about that. Mr. Hugh Shepherd, good night. We're going to also look at some of the responses from our churches. There is a whole prayer initiative that is being spearheaded by the churches in Barbados. So we're going to look at that, Hugh. Bonnie Shepherd, good night. Cecilia Miller, good night. Teroni, good night, Teroni, one of our very faithful viewers. All right, always there, always there. It's me. Good evening. Good evening. It's me. And we are going to tonight, Judy. Judy, another one who's always on, and so many of you are always on. But I remember these two because they also come to the walks, etc. But we're going to also look at this UN Pact for the future. Did you hear about that? It's a pact that they've come up with for the future. So we have to take a look at that and how is that going to affect us as they are pushing this cashless society. All the one world government. They're pushing all of that, and some people might say that you can't do anything about it, but you can prepare and then determine which part of it that you want to be part of, or what's going to happen there. We still have to discuss it, right? Yeah, so we're going to look at that. We have Umar Abdullah Marcia. He's coming on from Trinidad, and he's going to look at that. We hear our own Fred Corbin is sounding the alarm on that issue as well here in Barbados. Rameem, good evening, Rameem. How are you doing? Oh, Rameem is very faithful as well. Mitchell Ben, good evening. Ryan Rock, good evening. Nat Grant, how are you doing? Peter King, wonderful. How are you doing? Peter, we're going to continue to talk about that tinted water. And I told you on Sunday night, we have a full 2 hours that is designed for that. Okay. So we're going to look at that. Bim the Beautiful, Peter King, Sir Alfred Benjamin, all the way from I'm watching from Brooklyn. Hey, Sir Benjamin, how are you doing? That's wonderful, 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 wonderful. Very good. Coraline Cadogan, good evening. Cynthia Thorpe, good evening. Rollinston Brown, how are you doing? Emerson Bob from the UK, good evening. And every time I come upon that name, I want to tell Emerson and everybody in the UK that I'm going to be there in the UK. We have an amazing panel discussion speaking with youth in the diaspora and seeking to build stronger bridges with the youth in the diaspora and Barbados. And I think that's something that is so, so necessary. So I'm going to be in the UK right there in Brixton on October 22nd, guys, on October 22nd, right there in Brixton. And I can send you the information closer to the date. We're going to put it up on the screen. So Emerson, please tell everybody, bring them out, and don't let me be there by myself. Born Again, good evening. Patrick, good evening. Owen Hines, good evening. Beverly Prescott, how are you? Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening. It's so great to have you all joining. Mystic Angel, good evening. Liana Bell, how are you doing? Oh, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Rameem, we said good evening already. And I'm just going. Ingrid Fort La Victor, I think. That's the name. I love that name. Tyrone Green, Tyrone Nurse, good evening. Okay, wonderful, Barbados. We are here together. The family has gathered. And I tell you, we have all the elders in place. The elders, the seniors are in place. I'm told not to say elders. Seniors are in place. And we are all ready tonight, and we are going to learn. We're going to sit at their feet and we're going to learn. Please make your comments. Remember, don't forget, we're going to need you to call in. Take the number down, and we're going to need you to call in. What are we talking about tonight? We're looking at the violence in the school. We had a student stabbed at Alexandra School early this week. Then today we had another student stabbed at Graydon Sealy School. Today we had a student that came. His parents saw him with all the cuts on his face. He had to go to the hospital from St. George Secondary. It's just so much that is happening with our students, and we are going to talk about the UN Pact for the future, and what is it really, and how does it affect us here in Barbados. We're going to look at that, and we're going to look at the church's response to crime and violence right here in Barbados. Well, guys, let's go right into, what we're going to do. We're going right into the national anthem. That's what's going to happen. So let's stand for the national anthem. Yes, folks. Yes, folks. We are craftsmen of our faith. You heard that? We are craftsmen. Let's break that down. What does that mean? To be a craftsman, what does that mean? I'm gonna wait for you guys to put it in the comment section because I want us to be interactive about this tonight. Craftsmen of our faith. Craftsmen of our faith. What does that mean? Craftsmen of our faith. I think it's important. That's where we're going to start tonight. We are craftsmen of our faith. Loyal opposition. Remember, that's who we are. We are the opposition in Barbados, the people. We create our fate. We create our fate. What happens to us? We create it. We create our fate. Do we actually believe that? We sing it in the anthem Tony Paris, but do we realize that? That it is us. We create our fate. So for example, what is happening in Barbados right now, where we have a government that is basically, I mean, you know, I don't even know how to describe this government as it relates to just the method, the mode in which this it's an authoritarian government, a government that's tyrannical. That's the kind of government that we have in Barbados. Well, we created that. How did we create that? We created that because we went to the polls and we decided that we were going to give one party all of the seats. Yeah? Dictatorial. Dictatorial. We heard from Mr. Thorne, regardless of what you think of him, you have to give him credit for that, who explained to us how this prime minister sits down and she comes up with these illegitimate, illegal things, policies, illegal, can't be done legally. But because she's a prime minister, she's going to supersede everybody else and try to legislate illegally. It's called tyranny. We are craftsmen of that. We created that, Barbados. We created that. We see what is happening in our nation at the moment. We see what is happening in our schools. Huh? Yes, we see what is happening in our schools. What's happening in our communities. We have to take responsibility. As I keep telling you, nobody's coming to save us. It's all of us, all 280,000 of us. It's in our anthem. What I'm saying to all of us, it's in our anthem. Craftsmen of our fate. How are you creating your fate today? Are you throwing your hands up in the air and saying, whatever happens, happen? We can't do anything. Huh? We can't do anything. We watch and we see our leader is giving speeches at the UN. I was just in Nelson Street last week, along with quite a number of other Barbadians. And you know what they said? They have not seen a minister yet. Worse yet, the prime minister. The first time in the history of Barbados, there's a mass shooting. And they have not, nobody from the government has been down there, according to the people. But we see our prime minister speaking about peace, world peace, when we're at war. Our children are being stabbed in schools here. Our communities are war zones. So how are we talking about world peace and global peace and peace in Israel and peace in the Middle East and peace when you're not home? At a minimum, that community has been through so much. Homes gutted by fire right there on Wellington Street and the street over Nelson Street. The first mass shooting.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why I say to us Barbadians, it's all about it's us. We're it. We will have the power to change our fate. Yes, so Dave, please put up the disclaimer. Thank you so much, Patrick, for that. Thank you, appreciate you. So, and this is why we're not going to stop. We're not going to, because the people in the community, they're saying nobody cares about us. They're treating us like animals. But you know what? We're not going to sit down and blame the government and say the government isn't going. Yes, we notice it. Yes. And that's why we're going again for Solemn Walk number 3. A lot of you are on here and you are typing. You come on every night. Can you take another step, please? As we create the fate, our fate here in Barbados, we are craftsmen of our fate. As we sit down and we meticulously create our fate in Barbados, can we go a little further? Put on a white shirt or put on full white, a skirt, a pants on next week Sunday. Not Sunday coming, the next Sunday. Let us go to Chapman Lane. Let us go to Chapman Lane. We went there today to do our scouting.
Mm-hmm.
And let me tell you something, guys. Some of the conditions that people are living under, it's not easy in this country. We walked where we're going to walk today. We mapped out the area. We would have passed places that people have died. We're going to go back with those placards again, CG. We're going to go back with our placards again. We're going to walk the streets of Chapman Lane and the surroundings. We're going to start right there at St. Mary. What am I saying, guys? What am I saying, Barbadians? We are craftsmen of our faith. We're taking responsibility. We are taking responsibility. Today, I got out of my house today and walked the streets, Chapman Lane and its surroundings. I'm asking you. It's easy, guys, to sit here and we type. And yes, we're going to blame the government because there are some things that they have to do. There are certain policies and laws and all of that they have to do. But then there are things that we need to do as well. I'm saying to us, let's go and shake somebody's hand. Let's go and hug someone. We're going to have a war meal. A 70-year-old woman who was not born in this country. She was born in Guyana. For those of you who love to say, go back to your country. 70 years old said to me, Marcio, I was there in Nelson Street with you all. And yes, we've got the non-perishable, but there were people there who were hungry. She said to me, she's 70 years old. And she says what? I am going to cook. I am going to cook and put in the back in the back of the truck in one of my friend's vehicles, she says, and we're going to organize it. And we're going to come and serve a hot meal with carbohydrates with protein and vegetables. I was with her today, 70 years old, and she was born in Guyana. We are one people. You hear what I tell you? She's only 70 years old, but with her foot, oh, she has a problem with seem to be her hip. But that lady serves. She takes the money from her pension and put into it. I'm going to get her on the program because we need to celebrate people like her. That is the true Bajan spirit. That's what we're going to Chapman Lane with. Every one of us. It's one thing to come and you type and criticize. It's now time to take up responsibility for this country. Be, as our anthem says, craftsmen of our fate. Let us go out. Let us all go out. Sunday. Can you walk? If you can walk, let's go out. That 70-year-old woman was out there having an issue with her leg, but she was out there hopping along with a placard in her hand. That's how serious we have to get with it. Do you have toys? Can you bring a toy for a child? You saw the children we saw there, right? You remember those who were Nelson Street? We saw the children. We want to give them a toy. We want to bring the non-perishable food items. The food that is being cooked, it's not for us who are in the Solemn Walk. It's going to be for the people in the community. We're there to serve them. Walk with some non-perishable food items, guys. Yes, it's coming towards the end of the month. Some of you are shopping. Buy something extra, an extra tin of tuna. Buy some corn. Buy something extra. Buy some rice. Buy some flour, cornmeal. Folks, this is too important. Too important for us to just type. We need you there. Chapman Lane, they need to touch skin. How many of you are coming to Chapman Lane? We've been there, we're fine. It's our second solemn walk. We go with the police. Nothing is wrong with nothing. We're fine. What are you afraid of? You're going to allow this to continue happening and you have to be locking yourself in your home? I was there today. We walked the path today. Even if the ministers aren't going, the prime minister is on the world stage talking about world peace and there is war in our communities. How many of you are coming? I haven't seen any thumbs up as yet. How many of you really are coming out next Sunday on October 6th, 3 p.m.? Or we're not serious. We just come on and we type. How many of you who are in Barbados, you live in Barbados, you're healthy, you can walk? Coraline Cadogan said she's coming. Over 500 people are on already. One Barbadian going. You see, when we continue to allow this divide, the people at Nelson Street and there is us, and you got the people at Wellington Street and us, and those of them down in Chapman Lane and us. That's where you get the problem. Sandra Brewster, thank you. Judy Jokes, thank you. I was there today, Judy. Yeah, Israel, you're typing. Are you coming? Yeah, Israel, will you be there? Denzel Grisette, thank you. We'll be there. Fabian Yard will be there. Emanon is going to be there. Nigel Newton is going to be there, and he's a senior as well. I'm being very serious with us, guys, because it's easy to sit at home in your bed or on your couch and type. Yeah, Israel. Thank you, yeah, Israel. Velveteen, yes. And you know what? This, as I always say, this issue of violence, increasing crime and violence, it's not political. Yes, we still have to make demands of those who are in government. But it's really not a political issue. Marie, I hear you. Marie says if she lived in Barbados, she would be there. See, it's about 7 persons say that they're coming out of 535. And so I want us to stop and ask yourselves the question, how serious are we about this? How serious are we about it? Go in and see. Go in and look. Go and connect with the people. Lucinda, thank you, Lucinda. Thank you, Angela Clark. Go in and look. Connect with the people. It has to move from your head to your heart. I went down there and those are the children that touched my heart. In Christmas, we're going to go to Nelson Street, Wellington Street, and do a big fair for them. Just love. No politician will be speaking on that truck. Okay? No preacher is going to preach either. Nothing transactional. We're not trying to get them to come to our church. We're not trying to get them to vote. Yes, Andrea Moore. That's about probably 12 of you out of 535. And until we are willing to make that sacrifice, it's your Sunday, right? I see Reverend Carter is coming in. He's right here. Until we are ready to make that sacrifice of your Sunday evening, as much as you want to sleep, and say, no, it's my business. I'm getting up and I'm going to Chapman Lane. Andrea Moore. Thank you, Andrea Moore. Probably about 15 persons now out of 541. And I'm not letting up on you guys this time around. I am saying we come here and we cast blame on the government of this country. Okay? But comes a time we have to take responsibility as well. As citizens. Thank you, Sandra Pierce. Thank you. Let's go to Reverend Carter. This is Reverend John Carter. And I want to welcome him to the Marcia Week show tonight. And Mr. Carter is here to talk to us about the church's response. Now, I want to say that a lot of times we complain and we say the church is not doing anything. But can I tell you something about this on the screen? There's a a noise coming through. While he sorts that out, let me tell you something about Reverend Carter. Bim lady, I want to tell you something about Reverend Carter. Reverend Carter is someone who believes in prayer. Since I've been to Barbados, this gentleman here, you see, Mr. Carter, that's coming on, he has been organizing prayer for Barbados. Now, I see Bim lady says, agree with both of you. I pray Jesus opened the eyes of everyone in Barbados, and only prayer can break the chains. I want to say something to you, Bim lady, that although Reverend Carter believes very strongly in prayer, there's a noise coming through again. Probably it's something with your headphones. There's a noise that is coming through again. Reverend Carter, when I contacted him about going to Nelson Street, he was the first person to give a donation, and not a small one. I won't embarrass him by saying how much he gave. He was the first one to give a donation. He didn't just give a donation, give me a donation, but he gave me information about the hot spots. He had all of that mapped out. So I want to say to you, Bim lady, let me say to you something, Bim lady. It is more than prayer. Right? It's more than prayer. It's action. Yeah? It's action, and I would love if we would get into the action mode. Let me see if we can hear Mr. Carter. Good night, sir.
Good night to you too.
Yes.
Marcia.
Yes, it's way better. I was just here speaking about you, and that you're a man of prayer. And tonight you're talking about prayer tonight as an initiative from the church. But I wanted to publicly thank you for being the first person who gave a donation towards the Nelson Street and Wellington Street walk. So I want to thank you so much for that.
Well, you're very welcome. As we have funds, we will continue to contribute. Because what you're doing is unique for Barbados, and every initiative to bring the presence of God and to bring the purpose of God and the nation requires money. You cannot. There's very little. In fact, the Bible itself says that money answers all things.
Yes.
So there's very little that you're going to accomplish without money supporting it.
Yes, sir. Now you have been a champion of prayer initiatives throughout Barbados. I remember since I've been here, you have been doing that. This is not a knee-jerk reaction for you at all, Mr. Carter. Can you tell us about this 10,000 points of light? What is it, and why did you come up with this initiative?
Well, before you got that, let me just read a scripture here for us. Out of 2 Chronicles. We tend to read 2 Chronicles 7 verse 14, but I want to go back to verse 13. And I'm reading from the New King James Version, where God says, "When I shut up heaven, and there is no rain, when I command the locusts to devour the crops, to devour the land, or when I send pestilence among the people." Now, we are talking about three kinds of disaster here. One is national drought. It's extreme drought in the natural sense, and also at the spiritual level. Then there's no food. Because the locusts are eating up everything, there will be no food. The third thing that we see happening to the nation that God says he can do is that the workforce is devastated because of pestilence. Millions of people died during the COVID pandemic, and that affected many countries in a very significant way. But then God says there's a solution. Verse 14 now. He said, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves, pray, seek my face, turn from their wicked ways. So we have to do a number of things. You have the people of God. Now he's not talking about the ungodly. He says that there's going to be change, there's going to be a turnaround in what we see. Then the people of God have to be ones who, by their response to him, they bring about the turnaround. So he says, if we humble ourselves, if we seek his face, so he becomes a priority. If we pray, if we humble ourselves, if we pray, if we seek his face and we turn away from our wicked ways. Now, a lot of people who don't repent very often, right? They think they have it. We generally think we don't have anything to repent for. But if you look at the Lord's Prayer, which Jesus taught us, you'll find that you cannot pray the Lord's Prayer without humbling yourself or submitting yourself to repentance. Okay, so we have to humble ourselves. You have to pray. You have to seek God's face. You have to turn from our wicked ways. And God said, when those things are done, he will hear from heaven. He will forgive the sin of his people and of the land, and he will heal it. So prayer is very essential to bring about change in our nation.
Yes.
The initiatives that you're doing in publicly standing against violence and social evils in our nation is very important. But there are spiritual forces at work which we have to be conscious of, which are in control of the different aspects. What some people call them mountains, which are influencing culture, security, political, climate, economics, health. So, in order to deal with these spirits or the spiritual forces that are arrayed against God's people and the nation, the people of God have to come to God in prayer, have to use his word against these wicked spirits, high places, these principalities and powers, rulers of the darkness of this world.
Yes.
The people of God have to come to God to take control. So we take control of these influences that affect our nation.
Yeah. So let me ask you something, Mr. Carter, in lieu of time, Reverend Carter, can you tell us how is this 10,000 points of light? How is it going to work? What can you explain to us? How is it supposed to work?
Okay, so what we want to do is we met with some church leaders last week and again this week.
Yeah.
To explain the concept. Now, let me say up front, this vision or strategy was developed or initiated by Apostle Fitzroy Wilson. Mm-hmm. Some of you might know him, Fitzroy Wilson. So this was his vision, which he shared with us, mm-hmm. And we saw that this could work. So what we want to do is that we want to get. Initially, ultimately we want to get 10,000 what we call points of light. But initially, we want to start up. We want to get 100 people on board. We want 100 persons to volunteer
Mm-hmm.
themselves as prayer leaders. Prayer leaders. So we want
Okay, so
1,000
you
people.
need 100 persons as prayer leaders.
1,000. We want
1,000
1,000.
persons,
Yes.
1,000 persons as prayer
We want
leaders.
1,000 persons to initially volunteer themselves as prayer leaders. Now, the prayer, the points of light can be anywhere. Initially, we are saying in the homes of people. I'm going to talk about that in some detail. But it can be homes, it can be community centers, it can be workplaces, it could be churches, it could be on the street, it could be a gathering of people on a street corner. So what we're saying in homes, because there are a lot of senior citizens and it'd be more comfortable for them. So what would happen is that in addition to having 1,000 people volunteer themselves to be leaders of the prayer time or the prayer gathering, they're also asking for 1,000 people to volunteer their homes to host the prayer gathering.
Mm-hmm.
And we're saying that we're trying to limit the number of people in the prayer gathering in a home to 5 persons, because we know that not everybody's home has large accommodations, and we don't want to put any pressure on it. We don't want to eliminate anybody. We don't want to put any pressure on anybody's home situation.
Mm-hmm.
So we're saying we're if I go up to one of my neighbors, for instance, on my street, and I say, listen, we want to have a prayer meeting because we know much of it's happening in the nation that we need to be praying. Are you willing to host a prayer meeting for about 5 people? Now, the host of the prayer meeting does not have to be a Christian. Let me say that. We're not saying that the person in whose home we're going to have the meeting has to be a Christian. That's not the case. As long as the person is willing to have 4 or 5 people come into the home for prayer, that's fine with us. The leader of the prayer time would be a Christian, of course. So we want 1,000 persons to volunteer themselves to lead as prayer leaders, and then we want 1,000 persons to volunteer their homes for us to come in and have the meeting.
Okay.
Now, of course, if your home has 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 people already, but that's it. You're not going to bring anybody into your home. If the members of your household are willing to be part of the prayer event, then that's it.
Yeah. So let me ask you a question, because we only have about 3 minutes left in this segment. Is it a particular day that it's going to be done on?
No, between the prayer leader and the host, they will determine what day, what time they're going to have the meeting.
Okay.
So, if, for instance, I am a retired person. I am home a significant amount of time, so I can have a prayer meeting at my home anytime during the morning or the afternoon or night.
Okay. And so there's no time period. They just need you to host a prayer gathering in your home, or under a tree, wherever, with 5 persons.
Yes, and the prayer meeting, we're saying we're limiting it to 45 minutes, because if you have a prayer meeting at night, for instance, and you have people. Well, another thing we're saying is that we don't want the meeting to be held in such a way that people have to travel distances to get to it. No, that's not the case. These are a community-based meeting, so you could have 4 meetings going on the same street because of the density of it. But we want, particularly where the meetings are held at night, we want the meeting to be held so that people can walk to their home in safety, or from their home in safety. Ultimately, we want to get to 10,000 homes and 10,000 leaders. Now, when that happens, that we have 10,000 leaders and 10,000 homes and 10,000 prayer meetings every week for 3 months. Minister Marcia, you understand that if we have 10,000 prayer meetings of an average of 5 persons per prayer meeting, we talk 50,000 people praying every week. Can you imagine the transformation that is going to happen at Barbados?
Yes, yes. Well, I mean, this is very very. I think it's a great initiative, and of course, anything to help this nation, we want to support it. Somebody's saying, well, there are other people of other faiths. Well, I'm sure that the Muslim faith probably will have something as well. Those who are Baha'i or whatever, this is the church, the Christian church. This is their response, okay, and it doesn't stop others from other faiths, as people are saying, but Barbados is multi-faith. Well, each faith can do what it is that they feel compelled to do, or feel led to do, or feel motivated to do. Here, Reverend Carter is speaking about the Christian church. Reverend Carter, is there a number that people can call you if they want to sign up as a prayer leader? What do they do?
Yes. My number is 234-8703.
Okay, so 234-8703.
Yes, or 428-8464. It should try the 234 number first.
Okay, try the 234. So if you're listening and you want to be part of this great initiative with 10,000 points of light, which is so important, then please call this number 234-8703 to be part of it. I want to publicly ask you to, sir, invite some of those leaders to come with us to Chapman Lane. Some of the leaders, some of the pastors, to see the community, meet the people. So we want to invite you. In addition to that, this Saturday, Reverend Carter, before we go in, those persons who can go down Saturday morning at 7, that's October 5th at 7 o'clock, and to walk the same route that we're going to walk and pray the same route. Okay?
Absolutely. That's
Those who
good.
can, and those who can come out on the 6th as well, because it is a declaration. It is all of us together. All right. So thank you so much, sir. God bless you, and keep us informed. I will invite you to come back to tell us how it's going. All
Thank
right.
you for having me.
Yes, sir. God bless you. And
Bless you too.
I will be joining up. I'm joining up. Okay.
Wonderful.
Yes. God bless you. Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye bye. Well, folks, there you have it. That is Reverend Carter, and that's his expression coming out of the Christian church here in Barbados, and that's what they are, part of what they're doing. As I said, Reverend Carter is also a doer, and prayer is, while prayer is important, he also knows that he has to go and hit the pavement. All right, and he will do that as is necessary. Our next solemn walk is going to be Sunday, October 6th at 3 p.m. For an end to gun violence. We're starting from St. Mary's Church, and then we're going to go to Chapman Lane, okay, and the environs there. I even realized there was an Emerton, I think it's like an Emerton Avenue or street that we walked on today. We went on Third Avenue, thereabout. Okay, so we're asking everybody to come out, let it go a little bit more than just complaining on Facebook and complaining on Instagram and typing your complaints and being home and quarreling and sending around WhatsApp. Put a little more effort in it, those of you who can. I know some of you are not able to walk, but if you can, let's get out there. Let's hit the road running, okay? Very, very important. Well, guys, tonight we have with us here Mr. Umar Abdullah. Good night, sir. How are you?
Pleasant good night to you, Master Weeks. Haven't seen you in a while.
Oh my word! The last time I saw you, I was in Trinidad.
Yes, yes, yes. But
Yes.
you're looking good. You're looking good. You're taking good care of yourself, and I'm pretty sure you're taking care of Barbados.
Oh wow. Well, I tell you, I mean, we're working together. Thank you so much for your wonderful compliment. But we are working together as a country. And that's what we do when we come on here each night. We find solutions, we work together, we discuss the problems, and we work together. And that's what's happening here in Barbados in true Bajan spirit, as we
Yes,
would
that's
say.
important.
Yes. Now, I ask you to come on and for you to talk to us about this UN Pact of the Future. But before we start, I'm going to ask Dave to play that particular video that gives us an idea of what it is that you're going to speak on. So let's do again a little introduction. We have a little 3-minute video, and I'm going to ask him to go ahead and to play that.
Hi, everyone. This is Dr. Sherry Tenpenny, and I want to do a quick update about a document that got passed by the United Nations this weekend called the Pact of the Future document. It's 2 parts, one on science and technology and one about the youth and future generations. It is quite egregious, and it was done by a procedure called the silence procedure, which makes it a pact, and if no one objected, it is automatically adopted and put into the record as being completely adopted. This is the World Health Organization's runaround, or end around. Since they were not able to get the World Health Organization treaty passed, they decided to take it to the General Assembly. And it is even more egregious than what the World Health Organization was wanting to get passed. Let me just read you something really quickly about what is inside of this pact that is now being accepted by 193 nations around the world and equally open-armed accepted by our current administration. Everyone, it says that this is the power structure, fully digital and maximized for the control of the masses. Everyone will be expected to have a biometric digital ID that marks them not just as citizens of an individual country, but as a global citizen. So anytime you hear global citizen or anytime you hear sustainability, think that this is an egregious thing that's happening at the level of the World Health Organization and the United Nations. Anyone that has a dissonant opinion will be labeled as misinformation, disinformation, or malinformation and memory hold. Perpetrators for unapproved information will be fact-checked and punished by the system, which will be operated and enforced by artificial intelligence. Punishments will include being locked out of one's bank account, being unable to make certain purchases, unable to get on an airplane, on a subway, drive on public roads. This is the future, according to the world's self-appointed overlords at the United Nations. These are unelected bureaucrats that are making decisions about our country, our sovereignty around the world. Nothing could be more important at this point in time than to get prepared, have water, food, digital access, flashlights, a way to communicate with family and friends. Now is really the time to get involved and get prepared, because this is what's coming. Our Congress is sitting on its hands. There was a press conference on the 17th about this, and no further action has been taken. So it's up to us to mobilize and to go forward, particularly with your local sheriffs, to get your constitutional sheriffs to say, this isn't going to be allowed in my county. Thank you very much. Take action. We've been talking about the onset of one world order, one world government, one world religion, one world money for a long time. Well, it's no longer coming. It's here.
Yeah. Wow, that is quite interesting, and Umar Abdullah, again, welcome. Anybody who's watching, Umar Abdullah is the founder and president of the Wave. Why did it leave my
First wave
mind?
movement. First
First
wave
Wave
movement.
movement. I know that the First Wave movement in Trinidad and Tobago, and who has been sounding the alarm on a lot of these. UN initiatives, let's call them that. And you've been doing that for a long, long time through the pandemic, etc. And so I thought when I saw it that it'd be great to have you on the show to talk to us about it. So in the few minutes that we have, can you give us your assessment on what the UN is seeking to do And how do you think it's going to affect us here in Barbados and the Caribbean?
Well, basically, let me first state this program would not be able to go on if this pact are enacted, if all of the conditions in this pact is enacted. We would not be able to speak. We would not have the freedom of speech. We would not have the freedoms that we enjoy today. Going to the supermarkets, going to a bank of our choice, and having our money there and having access to our money and all these things. That's not going to be the case. All right. It's going to be a total control
Mm.
from, and the woman is correct, from bureaucrats that we never voted for, right? People whom we do not know, people whom we never had any consultations with. We don't have democracy in the Caribbean no more, Master Weeks. That was a dream, a long time dream, all right? It's a totalitarian regime that has overtaken the Caribbean region. And our people have to understand this. We probably say democracy on a piece of paper,
Mm-hmm.
and we may have to look like if we are looking for a needle in a haystack to find that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because every document that's in our Prime Minister's office and our ministry's office, and those who have been tasked with the responsibility to represent our people, represent them well, they're not talking democracy.
Yeah.
All right? They're not talking that language.
Yeah. So,
So what
so
I'm saying is,
oh, go ahead, and then I have a
right,
question. Please go ahead, sir.
right. So let me just quickly state here this. Um, there's a lot of hidden dangers in the United Nations Pact for the Future. It's a threat, and let me state it clearly. It's a threat to sovereignty. It's a threat to our freedom, and it's a threat to our human rights. All right. This was recently adopted by 193 nations, and it was a secret process in which this was done. It was not voted by the United Nations. There was never a vote to say that so much would have voted, so much would have abstained, and so much would have not voted. All right.
Mhm.
How they do this secret process is that they send the document to all the different countries, and they
Yes.
give them a certain time frame in which to respond. All right.
Oh.
And to adopt it. All right. So there's nobody over your back. All right. You're not having consultation with your people. Me and Motley never came to the people and said, hey, we have something called the Pact for Future. Let's discuss it. Let's go to the different communities. Let's have some cottage meetings on this. That was never done in Barbados. Was never done in Trinidad. And we are just hearing about this through some foreign national, circulating a video trying to highlight this issue and so on. And this is not democracy. This is not a democratic process at work. And people have to understand that. Why it is are we living in our Caribbean countries, Trinidad and Tobago and Barbados, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, all these places, and we are seeing before our very eyes government's action is not resembling that of democracy.
But let
And
me
we are
ask you
still
something,
silent.
Mr. Abdullah, because I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, if we elected these prime ministers, or these in power, these people in power, and we are just sitting on down and hearing that, well, there's this UN pact and our country is signed onto it. Why do you think that elected officials who are leaders of sovereign nations, what do they stand to gain from giving up their sovereignty and signing on to something like this?
Well, that's the big $1 million question. All right. And, as we say that, we may very well be told that millions of dollars are being paid to these people. All right. They're being given certain promises, perhaps. They've been given certain lucrative deals, perhaps. You understand?
Well,
And
the truth is,
these people are getting,
once you send money, we know our prime minister going to sign. Because she said we want money. So once
yeah,
you do like this, she
yeah,
going to sign. She will sign us away. But go ahead.
yeah. So we have a prime minister in Trinidad here that says he don't like to leave his money out. You understand? Sleep out. You understand? He wants his money, right? But everybody else could have to wait on their money. Everybody else who's have to suffer. They don't know where the next meal is coming from. They don't have money to go to the supermarket. They don't have money to buy school books for their children. They don't have money to buy uniforms. All these things are happening. And like you rightly said, Mia Motley is in the United Nations, all of in those international conferences and conventions and so on, giving speeches about
Yeah,
peace and security. You understand? And good living and all of that. But why is that happening in your country? Your country is bleeding, it's crying.
correct.
And there you are. There you are on a podium talking about peace initiatives. All right? A speech is very, very, very easy to write. All right? Those speech writers, they're very clever, they're very crafty and so on. And they write beautiful speeches for these criminals to sell dreams to the world. Dreams that we can never see happening in our very own land and our countries. All right? This pact, all right, has the potential dangers of affecting digital governance, economic control, erosion of personal and national autonomy, all these things. We have to be vigilant as a people.
And in
Right?
addition,
Imagine,
Mr. Abdullah, it talks about the youth, and it talks about youth as well. So they are going to all whatever policies that they have towards the youth, and we know where that is going to lead. We will have to come back another time to talk about that. But let's talk about a little bit about the digitization, because that is one of the ways that they are planning to implement this pact, because they even go as far as to say that they will punish when you do not abide by the rules and the laws, that you are punished, and you'll be punished digitally. So let's because one of the things they want to do is to push this kind of cashless society, etc., etc. They can lock you out. You don't obey, then they lock you out of your bank account, because you're banking with them digitally. So let's just watch this little piece of this video. Go ahead, Dave.
People wish to use cash. And I tell you why it is so important that people use cash. For example, I have in front of me, you're absolutely right, a good old £50 note. I owe you £50.
Yeah.
I pay you. You go to the hairdresser. You pay your £50. The hairdresser goes to the cafe, pays the coffee shop owner £50. The cafe owner goes to the restaurant, £50. The restaurant pays for the linen cleaning, £50. The value of the £50 remains £50. If, however, I pay you with a credit card straight away, I'm devaluing that £50 because I am paying 3% on average interest to a bank or a society that's given me that card, which is the equivalent of £1.50. You then follow that through, and everywhere you go, the hairdresser, the coffee shop, the restaurant, if you're paying with a card, you're losing 1.5% or £1.50 every time. So after 30 transactions with cash, you've still got £50 in value. If you've used your credit card, the value is now £5 because you've paid the bank £45 in fees. And that's why the banks want to encourage you to go cashless. Don't allow it to happen.
But and this is part of what they are also pushing, the digitization.
yeah.
And Barbadians might say, Omar, what does that have to do with us? And we just want to play one more clip and then have you comment. Dave, can you play that clip from the Central Bank of Barbados that came out 2 weeks ago? 2 weeks ago. Can you play that, Dave? Thank you, if you can.
It's my great pleasure that declare this center open. This really, in my view, marks, as you said, another milestone in our mission to modernize and transform the bank. And I believe this is consistent with that and aligning our vision to be one of the most modern central banks in the Western Hemisphere. Also, fulfills a key strategic objective that I've had in terms of a paperless environment. First of all, it meets for efficiency. Secondly, it also meets for good tracking. So I want to thank the entire team, thank everyone here for making this a true vision and a milestone. We tick this box and we move on. And with that, it's officially open.
Wow. So there we have it in Barbados, and we are proud to say that our central bank, they want everything digitized and digital and so on. What do you say to Barbadians looking at this and reading on about the United Nations Pact, right? And wanting, us everybody to, you know,
I
to be digitized. What do you say to Barbadians?
first off, I must say I'm very, very sorry for that guy. Was that his entire speech? I feel sorry for him. He can't even explain his position. He can't even explain or put forward an idea. You understand, to begin with. It's obvious that he's been coached. It's obvious that somebody wrote something down for him to say and say, "Hey, you have to say this and this is how you have to say it, etc., etc." These people do not understand what they're doing. And I'm looking at the persons in the audience and they're clapping and cheering and laughing and all of that. A day is going to come when all those claps and those cheers will turn into tears. All right. And I'm warning the people in the Caribbean region, if we allow this idea of the cashless society to come and play in our countries, in our nations, in our Caribbean islands, I don't know. We have a saying in Trinidad and Tobago, I don't know for Barbados, we have a saying in Trinidad and Tobago, crap will smoke your pipe. Crapo is going to smoke your pipe. That's exactly what's going to happen to us. I am begging all citizens of the region, throughout the Caribbean region, whenever you have an opportunity to tender for a payment for anything, use cash. Use cash. Let us destroy it before they begin. If nobody uses a credit card, if nobody uses these bank cards and nobody uses these services, online this and online that and so on and so forth, then they're going to have to shut it down. They're going to be shut down before they even start. We have to teach these people a lesson. We have to make them understand that we as human beings have an intellect and we understand what they're doing. We know what's coming. And we have to avoid it at all costs. We have to get our communities together, knit our communities close together. Let us
Yes.
start bartering our goods and services. Let us start going back to that old, way that we had, in the past, where they go to the doctor, you carry a dozen common fowl eggs for the doctor or a couple chickens for the doctor, that kind of thing. Why can't we start back doing those things? We have to start back getting our communities to understand that erosion that is coming, how it's going to affect us. And
Yeah.
it's not just going to affect, probably you're sitting in your home and you're thinking that you're comfortable and, how is this going to affect me? I have money in the bank. I could do this, I could do that, and this and that and the other. But let's take, for instance, you one day decides to go and vote. You're right. And you decide that you're not going to vote for the ruling party and you vote for the opposition. And by some means, the ruling party gets wind of you voting for the opposition, or that you are a supporter of the opposition. And what's coming? Let me tell you people something. The opposition is soon going to be labeled as misinformation and disinformation, right?
Can you repeat
Misinformation and
that?
disinformation.
Repeat that. This is so important what this gentleman is saying to us, because you know that we do have a cybercrime bill that they are
Yeah,
waiting. They have in the wings there that they want
yeah.
to put into law. And listen to what Mr. Abdullah from Trinidad is saying to us as it relates to this UN pact. And as he says it, as he repeats it, remember what you heard in
So
the
let me
first video. What does
right.
it say?
So let me be
Misinformation
absolutely clear.
will be punished.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Mr. Abdullah.
Artificial intelligence will be employed to enforce these regulations, right? Censorship, punishment, all these things. It's going to be an automatic, an automatic system. If you say certain things, there's certain keywords right now in the United States of America. There's an underground, network of, where, when you make phone calls and you have communications and so on, there's certain keywords that if you use, those keywords allow the government to come and create a file on you and start monitoring you and et cetera, et cetera. All right. And this has been in existence for so long. All right. You could well imagine with the AI technology that we have now, how advanced this could possibly be. And we're talking about an algorithm that's going to be placed into the system that's going to monitor not just what we say, but how we say it. There's an old saying that says, it's not what you say, it's how you say it.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? So I could say, um, you know, I hate Mia Motley, right? In so many different ways, right? But the point is, it is not just what you say. You could use a statement and not use the word hate in it, but how you say it, it's going to pick you out and it's going to say, nah, this is somebody we need you know, to watch, right?
Yeah.
That tone, right? We need to watch that tone. So you go to the grocery the next day to buy flour, to buy bread, and you realize that the cash that you had in the bank is no longer accessible. All right? There's a red flag in it, or there's something, there's a block, all right? Because you're being investigated. This is what we are asking for. This is what we are buying into. And we have to, the only way, and I've said it to some of my colleagues in Trinidad, I have said it to them. We the highest court of the Trinidad and Tobago and the Caribbean, it's the supreme the how you call it, the court in England. Um, that name just slipped me. Help me. Um, the Privy Council.
Yeah.
All right. The highest court is the Privy Council. I am saying that is incorrect, and I want you people to hear me here out tonight. That is incorrect. It's an incorrect statement. It's something that we have been made to believe that the highest court in the land is that the court in England, right? The highest court in the land is the people, Marcia. It is the people. The highest court in the land, I want to repeat it. It is the people. There's no law that can be put in place without the support of the people. There's none. And if the Privy Council rules on a matter, if they rule on a matter and the persons or the people in that country massively protest against that ruling, what do you think the government of the country would have to do? They will have to throw away that ruling,
Yeah.
and they will have to abide by what the people say. Only believe what I'm saying. And if any
Correct.
time any one of you feels that that is not correct, what I just said, challenge me on it. Challenge me on it, and I will prove it to you. Yes, Marcia.
Yeah, you know, I tell you, I mean, what you're saying is so true, and we are here in Barbados speaking against the cybercrime bill. And here, the prime minister is getting support from the UN because she went ahead, and Barbados probably is one of the first countries that would have signed on to that. As you know, she's the UN's baby here in the Caribbean, and in
This is
in
the UN's
Africa
poster
it's
child.
Ruto, and that's why you see in Kenya those people were ready to throw out Ruto, but we're a little too passive. It seemed like over on this side. But she's really getting the marching orders to the rest of the Caribbean, and signing us all away to these all of these treaties and no to this pact, and we're giving away our
And,
sovereignty.
and
Well,
that's another point.
we only have a minute left, so let me just leave that for you to give us your final word. Somebody's agreeing with you and saying that someone what's happening in Martinique, the people are protesting the high cost of living,
Yeah.
right? In
What
Martinique, so people are
what I want
protesting
to
there in Martinique. But let me let you have the
so what I want to end
the
with
final word.
what I want to end with, very important. We have to recognize that this UN pact, all right, pact for the future, is just one agreement. There are many others, and all these agreements they intertwine and interlock each other. All right, there's the Samora Agreement. We have all these other United Nations treaties, all these international treaties, the Montevideo Consensus Agreement, all these different treaties our countries would have signed and would not have had consultation with its people. And they would have went ahead and signed these agreements. And now we're looking at these agreements and we are seeing in them how much it's affecting our sovereignty, our freedoms, etc., etc. And as much as we're talking about the UN Pact, we have to also talk about these other treaties as well and what government continue to do. And we must develop some strategy to stop governments in their tracks from adopting or signing on to treaties without first coming to the people
To the
and
people,
having consultation.
we
We
need
have to
consultation.
something we have to do. We have to force that consultation. So in other
Yes,
words, the government could run off in the middle of the night and do these things, huh? So there must be something in place that government cannot do that. They cannot run off in the middle of the night and go and accept, sign one of the treaties or accept one of these arrangements and so on. They cannot do that. They have to come to the people for consultation, and there has to be a borderline, all right, a percentage of support that you have to get from your people, all right. And we're not talking about votes here in an election, all right. We're not talking about that. We are talking about real percentage. One man, one support. All right. We're talking about real percentage here. All right. So if there's
yes,
500,000 people or a million people living in the country, right, there has to be more than not 75%, but at least more than 85%. More
yes,
than 85%. All right, of support for this. If it is you're going to have to sign this. And if you don't have it, well, brother, leave it alone.
yes.
Leave it alone.
Wow. Well, Abdullah, thank you for coming on and for sharing with us tonight. We really do appreciate it, and we're going to keep in touch with you, sir, because you're right there with the information. Thank you so much, and say hi to all of my friends in Trinidad, and keep up the good work in Trinidad. God bless you.
Yes. And you too, Marcia Weeks, you're doing a wonderful job. You're making me proud every single day. I hear about your initiatives and I hear about your programs and so on. And we knew how humble this starting was for you. All right. So I can say this on public television. I can say this
Yes,
in public domain that you have done a tremendous amount of work and you have reached the stars and you are heading to the universe, way beyond the stars. And we're here to support you. And if Barbados only understood the heart that is inside of you, If Barbados could only understand the soul that sits there in that chair tonight, the entire Barbados would rally behind you because you are a savior and you have come to save the people of Barbados and by extension, the people of the Caribbean and everyone who is listening onto this program. And every time somebody looks at this program, they should be told that Marcia Weeks, right, is here to stay and she's going to do great and wonderful things. And she's going to be part of that change, part of that mechanism that is going to create a wave of change throughout the Caribbean region. And we are going to support you 100%.
Wow.
We're behind you 100%. And
Oh, wow.
if I had money, Marcia, you would have seen me in Barbados every time you had one of those campaigns. I would have
Oh
come
my
and supported
goodness.
you.
Well, you know
Yeah,
what? Thank you so much, and thank you for what you have imparted to me being in Trinidad with you. And seeing you going out by yourself. I went on a march with you in Trinidad, and how that inspired me, and that giving me a respect for people of all religions. I was traveling in a
yeah,
car with a group of Muslims, and how
hmm
you inspired me, and that's why one of the reasons, I've always rocked with the Rastafaris over here too, but in Trinidad, I was moving with the Muslims, and I thank you for your support and your very kind words, and for realizing what it is that it's a calling. It really is a calling,
yeah.
and I know
It
you
is,
know
it
that.
is.
You know
Yes,
that because of what
yeah,
we experience in Trinidad. Thank you so
yes,
much,
yes,
Mr.
yes.
Abdullah, for coming on. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
You
Okay,
almost
take
make
care,
me want to
Marcia.
cry, but thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. That
All
was
right.
heartfelt. Thank you so much. Well, folks, really, we're going to have to keep researching on this pact for the future and do our very, very best to bring the information to you, and so that you can understand what it is that we're going into, your eyes wide open, and be able to say what it is that we need to do. And we need to put, start to write to all of the other parties that are seeking to come into government. We need to get their positioning on this, all of these pacts and all of these agreements that we've had signed on to with the UN, and how it's going to affect us as sovereign countries or sovereignty, and that all of that is very, very important. And we need to look to see there are only 193 countries that have signed on. We need to check to see what are the other countries that have not signed on, and make alliances with them. I think we need to look at that. How many African countries have signed on and how many have not. I think those are things that we need to look at. Yeah, very, very important. Yes. Um, I want to see what David's showing me there. I can't see it. Okay, so we know Russia and Iran that they did not sign on to the Pact for the Future, right? So that this is called according to Al Jazeera. So everybody that we got homework, we've got to look it up and to see what is happening there. I would love to know if China. Does anybody know if China has signed it? Has China signed it? That'd be interesting to know. Yeah. Okay. Well, we're going to come right back to home, right back to home. Well, it was always home, but we're going to look at what's happening in our schools. We're going to look at what is happening in our schools, and I need you guys to like. Everybody, can you stop a moment and like? Please stop a moment and like the program. Have you liked? Have you shared? Okay, somebody saying China did not sign. That's going to be pretty interesting because our prime minister is courting everybody. Anybody can show her dollar signs. She my our prime minister is courting everybody. 1 minute she doing with China, next one, I tell you, my God, what is going on here? But China didn't sign, Russia didn't sign. Interesting, very interesting. Mm, very interesting. While you sign, though, I want to remind us of the tint water in St. Lucie. We're going to deal with this head on Sunday. Okay, on Sunday we have Mr. Alvin Toppin is going to join us on Sunday, along with some of the citizens of St. Lucie, right? They're going to join us here on the program on Sunday, where we're going to go into that a little bit more. But if you remember, when Shakwani was on for that water, she has a water drive. And I don't know if Dave could put that flyer up. And as we prepare to get into our next segment, Miss Dujon is coming to us. But before she comes on, if Dave could put up that flyer for us, the water project, all right. And this is by the Young Democrats. And they're seeking donations of drinking water for persons in Barbados without water. And I believe they're starting in St. Lucie because of the tinted water that the people are getting there in St. Lucie. Dark tint water. Okay. And how can you help? You can help by donating gallon bottles of water and buckets. Okay. Now, remember what she said is that you could buy those big gallon bottles that have the blue top. You can buy those for $3 or $5. Okay, and you can bring the bottles to the George Street Auditorium. All right, George Street Auditorium, and I believe they're open Monday to Friday. There's also a number here on it on the flyer as well. So you're going to you can purchase an empty bottle, and what they can do at George Street Auditorium, they will fill them up, and they will take them, put them on a big truck, and then they're going to take them to the areas affected. Right now, the area that they're looking at is in St. Lucie because of this dark tint, the dark tint that is in the water that somehow our prime minister failed to acknowledge because she was at the UN, and the UN has put out the sustainable development goals. And one of them is that there is, for each country should have drinking water, clean drinking water. We don't here. We don't in Barbados, but I'm sure she hasn't told them about that. Okay. So we're going to provide buckets as well. Okay, so make sure that it's the buckets that would have had food in there before. You know, like the pigtail buckets, those white buckets. Those buckets are also being asked for, requested. So you can take it to the George Street Auditorium so that we can help the people with the dark tint water. Okay, so that they can have clean water. Donated would be able to, people would be able to cut the amount of money that they spend to buy water. All right, drinking water. So we're going to ask you to do that, and we're also planning roadside parliament and also a march in St. Lucie. So we're planning a march in St. Lucie and also a roadside parliament. So listen out for that. That is coming up soon. In addition, we have a special program Sunday night with Mr. Alvin Toppin, and citizens from St. Lucie will be on the program as well. Okay. All right. So that's it for the tint water. And let's go right into what's happening in the schools in Barbados. Now, just before I started the show, I got a news item came into my phone from Starcom saying that a student was stabbed at Graydon Sealy. Graydon Sealy, for those who are overseas, that was once Garrison Secondary. Okay, the Garrison Secondary. that we now have a student that was stabbed at that school. We had a student that was stabbed at Alexandra School early in the week. We're going to show you a picture of a young boy who went to school and came back with his face full. Look at this child's face. We've had to blur out his face. So I want to, where you see the brown, it's where his eyes and nose and so on would be. But this is how he what happened to him today. He's a first former at school. At school, not a war zone, but you dress up your child in their school uniform, right? Dave, let it go big so we don't necessarily have to see the uniform. You do what you were doing. Thank you. You could expand it, yes. So we covered the face. Okay, so the brown piece you're seeing there, we went through the pains of covering this child's face. But can you imagine those parents who got the call today? I wanted to think about that. The schools are now war zones, and our Prime Minister is on the world stage talking about world peace. I want this to sink in. I wanted this to sink in. This is a young first former, went to school 2 weeks. Parents would have either taken a loan or save up money to buy school uniform. Send him to school, and this is how what happened. He ended up in the hospital. This is what has happened. And these are the things, these are the ones that we hear about. As Ms. Dujon is here, we're going to get to her very soon, but I want to show you some videos, right? Let's look at some of these videos before Mr. John starts, because I want you to understand what is happening. And I want us to discuss this as a family this evening. As a family. Dave, can we look at some of these videos?
Fight! I got jealous of
Now, there is a video there from LSC, which I know is not a recent video, but some of these are recent videos. The point that we're trying to make, the point is this, is that the schools, inside the schools, what we know is recent is that a child was stabbed at Alexandra School. At the school, remember, that is at the same Alexandra School that somebody was killed. A student was killed there. If you remember the young boy, you remember? A first former, if I remember well, because some of his friends used to come to Praise Academy. Yes, some of those are old videos. So we are looking at the situation in the school. What is new? What is new is that this that you see here has escalated. Esther, this has escalated, and we now have people, 2 stabbings in 1 week. Yes, I do know that some of these videos are old videos. The little boy with the cut, that only happened that happened either today or yesterday. Some of these we've had to where you don't hear the bad words. When you hear a pause, is where we have cut out the bad words. They are cursing. I mean, I'm playing again, Dave, because I wanted to see how things have escalated. Go ahead, Dave.
Big sheep, 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 big sheep. Rami! Rami! Babito! 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 Police get call! Police get call! Look! Alright! Yeah! 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 Babito, man!
Now, pause there, pause there, Dave. And I'm glad you're hearing the commentary there. We have had to cut out all the words, the bad words, and so on. Okay. Now I know that not all of these videos are current videos, but I want to say to you that the stabbing that happened at Alexandra and that happened at Graydon Sealy today, those are current. So we are looking at a progression. We're looking at what is happening today in the newspaper, what is current, and I don't know if Dave can find that headline at some point before we finish this segment, where they have found weapons at the school. We had a situation at Alexandra School, and I'm telling you this because I have done some research on it. And everything that you see Maria Bradshaw put in that article is so true, because we were going to talk about it on Wednesday night and it came out in the newspaper on Thursday. There is a gang that is happening up there at Alexandra School. I've done my research. There is a gang that is coming. I'm just giving a little introduction before Mr. John comes on. You know why I'm doing this? Because some of you out there are thinking that, oh, she's just trying to create issues because she's in the opposition. How could she be just trying to make issues when Maria Bradshaw, I really love that. You have to tell that journalist, Maria Bradshaw, she goes and she gets the true stories. I called her today and commended her. And I said to her, Maria, I am so glad you were able to do that on Thursday, because I did not get a chance to do it on Wednesday because we were dealing with the water crisis. But I'm deliberately speaking this long before Mr. John speaks, because a lot of times when people begin to take the cover off of things for us Barbadians and show us what is underneath there, we point a finger at the person themselves. We do. I've had that experience. And I'm saying that what Mr. John has been talking about, the bullying in the schools, is so correct. There is an active gang at Alexandra School. Facts. Being run by somebody who keep getting what they say in Barbados, stopped down. So that when that young man got stabbed, the rest of the children were not sorry for him. You know why? Because he was sticking up people with knife and with scissors and taking their lunch money. Let us talk the truth. Mr. John went down there and uncovered all of this and came telling us about the bullying that's happening down there. Of course, we don't agree that the young man should not have had a knife at school than to stab the boy because he could have killed him. But he had complained. He had gone to whoever is in charge and complained several times. Maria Bradshaw from The Nation had the story, and I had the story as well, separately. This is what is happening in our schools. We have to face it. You can't pretend that it don't exist. We're talking education reform and talking up in our nose and no. Huh? And we have gangs within the schools. We're not addressing it. The teachers have no power. The teachers don't have any authority. They can't do anything. The teachers themselves are afraid. We have a serious situation in our schools. And I'm saying when people are coming to us and they're telling you what is going on, we need to listen. Right, the school checks yield weapons. It is being alleged that the same boy that got stabbed, who was bullying the children and part of a gang, and when the child couldn't take it anymore, the child stabbed him, which that child should not have had a knife at school. But these are the weapons the children carrying to school. It's right there. Mr. John, Felicia DeJohn did not make this up. This is what is happening in our school. And I deliberately, good night, Mr. John. I deliberately took the time to make this long introduction, ma'am, because I see what's happening in social media and what they're trying to do to you. So I had to say something on your behalf because independently I did this research, okay, and found out what was happening. Good night, ma'am. Welcome to
Good,
the
good,
Master
good
Show.
night, Marcia. Good night to your listeners as well. I really enjoyed the first presentation, and he speaks truth to life that you are the voice that is much needed because there are times that when we come out and we speak on behalf of others, it always appears that we're doing other things. But I think it's important that people understand the level of work that advocates have to endure because it's really about advocacy whether it's politically or not, but it's always been about advocacy for me, first and foremost. This is not the first time that I have been speaking about in terms of violence in schools. I have been living in Barbados since 2003. I have been doing advocacy since 2009, so it has been a growing concern for me. And I saw a comment in the chat this evening that spoke about the past Minister of Education, Santia Bradford. And it started from that point. That is where we saw the levels of violence in school. And I believe they had anti-bullying programs in schools and things of that nature. But what is the outcome? We haven't received any kind of report as to how much we've spent and what is happening in the various schools. We just need to know right now that this government is still the administration. They've had three ministers of education and they have not addressed the problem of violence in schools regarding young persons. So the concern that I'm having at this point is not only about us as individuals coming into the public and informing the public, but we need to recognize these are young persons that we're dealing with. These are young persons that need guidance. And I know sometimes they just make errors in judgment, Marcia. It's really errors in judgment that these young persons that if they know a different way to resolve those matters, they probably would. But at the point is some of them just really do not know what course of action should I take. And
Yes.
so yes, the attacks on me will be there, but at the end of the day, this work is not about me, it's not about you, but it's about helping the children navigate what they're going through right now. And that's what I think that's what's very important to me. The reality is that we have come down to the public space and we have told the government on numerous occasions, not only myself but also the union, the PTA, the youth arm, all of us had come out and tell that they need to intervene. Programs need to be implemented in those schools because we believe that early intervention is very important,
Yes.
particularly for young persons. Because, as I said before, it's really about errors in judgment.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they have a situation and they just do not know how to deal with it. And remember, we're dealing with young people that their minds are now developing. The cognitive development is not like an adult. So we have to give them the opportunity to make right decisions. And the right decisions really come out from the adults. So what
Mm-hmm.
we're seeing in schools, sadly, is really a symptom of what is happening in the society.
Yes.
This is what it is. The children are seeing violence at home. They're seeing it in the bus stands and different spaces. They're seeing it in their communities. They're seeing it on social media. We're actually seeing adults on social media cyberbullying others. And today was my example with a well known individual in society using a clip of me speaking about bullying in schools, but using it to cyber attack me. But these are the realities that young persons have because they see it and they believe that it is accepted behavior in society.
Yes. Yes. And we're gonna get to that person who bullied you, who tried to bully you on um social media today, because you are talking about the bullying in the schools. We're gonna get to that, but let's. I have a note here. I'm not gonna forget. I'm not gonna forget. We're gonna get to it, right? But Mr. John, I know that you took your time and you went down to on Alexandra School on a Monday. On is it Tuesday morning?
Yes,
Was
I
it?
did. I went immediately when it um, occurred the following day. I went there. Actually, I went there the same day. I'm sorry. My apologies. I went the same day. And when I got there, it seemed very quiet, which is very strange because the news came out and said that somebody got stabbed, a student, and parents started calling me because I gave my number publicly. Parents started calling me. So I rushed up to St. Alexander School, and when I got it was very, very quiet. And I thought that, it's a bit strange. I would have thought that something like that, the students would, parents would be come in. And it was a little bit after 2. Then I saw some parents come in parking to collect their children. I was like, "Are you okay?" And one of the parents like, "What are you talking about?" I was like, "Well, something happened. An incident occurred there." Many parents did not know. Many parents, and there were other parents that came in because they were alerted. I remember specifically there was a parent crying, and I asked her what is going on, and she said, "Well, my daughter, this is her first year, and she's been bullied." And I thought it was her. I thought she was attacked. And people don't understand these are lived experiences that people have and how traumatizing that it is. And the ministry is telling the public that the school was closed. The school was not closed. I stayed there. I observed. So one of the things I tend not to do is to take third person's experience. I like to experience things for myself. I went to observe on my own. The school was not closed.
Mm,
The students were still there and parents were collecting the children like a normal day because they were there up a little bit after 2. But the ministry is sending a memo out to say that school was closed at 2. I don't know what school they're talking about because I am right there, standing right there.
mm,
And I think that's the element of transparency and accountability. We need to be more transparent, more honest with parents. And I think, Marcia, sometimes I feel that way because I am a parent.
mhm.
And I would like to know. I know my children are very young.
And I must say, you're a parent, and I found out the other day you're a parent, not with your children in private school. Your children are in the public school,
Yes, they
and I
are.
know you worry for them as well.
I worry to the point that it could happen to any child. And I think when people go on social media and make it political, they have to remember that most of us have young children around us, whether it's our children, whether it's our nieces, it's a family member, and anything can happen to that child. And you're not there to protect them. That's the reality. That's the
Yeah.
reality a lot of parents feel right now. They are not there to protect their children. So that
Look at this. Let's look at this because you're talking about parents, and you have always been an advocate for parental rights and so on. And I think that one of the things that Miss Dujon is saying is that we have to develop a better system, on how to inform our parents on what is happening. And I think these are just basic things that that she's asking for. So while the search was important, it was important that there is a search at the school and children are searched. I think, Miss Dujon, one of the concerns that you had was that no attempt was made to even say to the parents that the children will be searched. We know everybody won't see their email and everybody won't see the chat and everybody, but these are things that we would believe the ministry would put in place, because you see, you have to work as a parent and a school. It's not just a school. It's a partnership with the parent and the school, right, Mr. John?
yes, and I think that many times that we forget that there is a law that guides the education ministry or the Ministry of Education. There's the Education Act, and it's very clear. It tells the minister exactly what is required of them and what is required of their staff. And one of the things that it is required is that you have to communicate with parents anything dealing with their children. And that's where the whole IDB matter came up, because they did not consult or speak or communicate with parents. The matter relating to the search, I believe that, Marcia, any one of us, any right thinking parent wouldn't mind a child being searched. Let's face it, that's a reality. Something has happened. The first thing I'd want to know is that, yes, I did search everybody. People stabbing each other now, we need to search everybody. We don't have a problem with that. But the reality is that parents did not know, children did not know, nobody knew. And so people came the normal time, students came the normal time thinking, well, we come into school, and all of a sudden there's a search. Again, parents call me in panic. Their children are calling them at work that they're outside on the line, and the rain, because it was really a bad day that day, the rain is about to fall. What should they do? So I had again to leave at work and go up again at St. Peter. So that's twice in a week, or almost three times back and forth. When I went there about 8:30 miles here, and I left there at 11.
Mm.
And the students were standing on the line until quarter to 10, quarter to 11, because they had one security guard doing the search.
Again, let me pause and say this again. Here again, Miss Dujon, and this is my challenge with the Ministry of Education, and I'm putting the blame there. If it is that something has happened, let's reason. As I said, we're going to talk about this tonight as a family. Let's reason and talk about it. So something has happened at Alexander School. We know, okay, we're going to search people's children. Okay, how should we go about this? The first thing we need to do, inform the parents. Will everybody see it? Everybody might not, but you know what? We cover our tails and we inform the parents that this is going to happen. The second thing is, if you have a school, most of those secondary schools, Mr. John, they have probably up to 1,000 people, 1,000 students, because I know, because we've had to deal with them with the Hush movies, right? And you're going to bring one person there to search the bags, and no right thinking person could think that something is wrong with that scenario, and so children would have to stand up over there for 4 hours with one person searching the children's bag. And then people complain when we come on this show and we talk. But that's a management issue, isn't it, Mr. John?
Well, of course, it's a management issue, but again, it shows in terms of the levels of preparedness for the ministry. Something like that happened, and this is why I recommended that the ministry has very clear policies and protocols as to what should we do in cases of emergencies, in cases of violent incidents at schools. First of all, I also believe that the school should have taken at least 1 day for preparation, not have the students return to the same environment that was some of them were traumatized by. So just taking a day or two just to put things in place wouldn't have harmed anyone. But to have them return the next day in total chaos. And the children, the students were just sitting there. And the reality is that I was the only adult outside with them. And they were talking to me, and I was just telling them just to calm down. Everything is going to be okay. And then I went live. I was like, somebody has to hear me. Somebody has to hear me today because this is not right. We do not treat children like that. There's no way we can treat young persons like that. These are people's children. They did not do anything wrong. They're not criminals. And this is the reality that we have. We cannot continue to treat our children as they're criminals.
And listen, let's wait. I think that I personally think that the search is important. Okay, I believe that the search is important. You definitely need to search the children. But I just think that there is a way to do it so that it's something that can be sustained and it's done properly and it's effective efficiency and work alongside with the parents because it's a community, it's not just a school doing this, but it's a community. We're working together in solving the problem, and it is basically saying to the school, work with the parents in seeking to get it done because the school can't do it alone because the parents they play a role as well. And if you're going to search, I mean, common sense says that it's impossible to have one person searching the bags. Remember, they have a book bag with, and they have lunch bags and so on. And someone on here was even saying that sometimes the children leave the weapons at school, not on their person, but it's hidden at the school. You heard that, Mr. John?
Well, yes, Marcia. Like I said before, if we don't have the protocols, we don't have safer school programs or protocols, then everything is going to be done ad hoc. And that is the problem. So, one of the things I believe that, and I did put it in the press so that the ministry understands that there are solutions, the way that we communicate, the kinds of training that we can give both staff, personnel, and students, not what happened at Springer, but we've trained personnel to do the kinds of perhaps routines or interventions or drills that we need in the times of such events. Because two things have happened over the past few days, I've noticed. We had one stabbing at one school, we had another parent attempting to enter another school through violent forms, and now we're having a stabbing at school. And all those freak incidents, they were saying that there was no clear protocol, nobody knew what to do. So when I went to Hilda Skeet School, the teachers were there. They were traumatized, the children. It was just chaos again because nobody knew exactly what to do. And not keeping in mind, there was no security at Hilda
No.
Skeet School. So
Which is
that's the
another
problem.
issue. No security at the schools, right?
No, not at all. And that is the problem. And it's just something that I have highlighted many weeks ago. I told the state, I told parents, I told everyone that some of those schools need security guards. There's security huts, there's no fences, there's limited fencing. So all of that I was discussing, not only in terms of physical security, but also having the personnel that is trained to protect our children. So what we're finding, some schools have securities, other schools don't. And that is the problem because all schools should be equal, all should have the same resources. So some schools are under resourced while others are not. And so that is the problem. And I think that the Ministry of Education need to get the act together. Why? Because it is affecting our children, it's affecting their learning, it's affecting the environment, and most importantly, teachers. It's affecting how teachers have to cope and deal with those kinds of very stressful environments. Can you imagine
But
trying to teach and knowing that anything can happen at any time? You may have security breaches without you knowing. It's a very stressful environment.
there's a guard now. Somebody's saying, and I think when we passed there, I can't remember if we saw a guard
Yeah,
there,
there is a
but
gap
there's a
there.
guard
There
now at
is. There is.
Henderson. So the question is, why can't we have a guard there at the school before something happens? And I think this is where, and this is what I think. This is why a lot of people are misunderstanding what Mr. John is saying because we're not accustomed to this kind of talk. What she's saying is that the parents, she's empowering the parents and said, parents, you have to rise up and demand better for your children. Now, Dave, put up that picture for me of the little boy with his face cut up for me, please. What are we saying is that when you send your good child to school, right? You dress them up and you send them to school. Hopefully, you would have taught them how to behave, right? You send them to school. You expect them to come home like this? You expect your good children to come home like this? Like you dress up and send them to school? The question is, when are the parents of Barbados going to rise up and say to the Ministry of Education, we are not sending back our children to school until there is proper security at the school? It shouldn't be a knee-jerk reaction now that children are searched. That should be now become part of what we do. Of course, putting the proper protocols in place, speaking to the PTAs, working to work with the parents. So that, as Mr. John is saying, it's not a knee-jerk reaction. Searching, you get away, just going to... No, but that the parents, everybody understand this is part of what we are in. We're in a different situation. We showed you those videos. Some of those videos, like you rightly said, some of them were a long time ago, which we know because LSD, the uniform is different. I knew that was a video from a long time ago. The point is that it has escalated. In 1 week, we had two children being stabbed, a parent going in and threatening a teacher, where people are walking around with guns in Barbados these days. What about if somebody did something like this to a child and then the next day a parent turned up there with a gun and there's no security? Parents, you have to demand more. Demand more. If they could find a guard to put in the scheme, they could put a guard at all the schools. Yes, they could. But look at this child. How would you feel that your child come home, leave school like this? Huh? You get a call and this is how you go to school and see your child. You know that these marks and so on is in this child's face. In their face. Huh? How you think that is going to come out? That's going to stay in his face. Yes, there is a gang, and you're so right. I know this gang that Bajan Suffering is talking about is a gang now. After school, they rape and rob the children of their money and cell phones. So the children not safe inside or not outside? Wow. But back to you, Mr. John. I think she dropped out there.
I'm still here. I had to change devices.
Okay. Yes.
Right. And I, as I said before, and you hit the nail on the head in terms of parents. Parents have to voice their opinion on issues. Parents have to get in contact with the PTA and voice their concerns, because it's a very serious matter. You have a right as a parent to ensure that your child is safe at school. That is your right. And that is the right of children as well. So if the Ministry of Education does not really understand that children do have rights, not only to be educated, but also to be safe at those schools. And part of being safe is to ensure that people don't infringe on their rights. Nobody has the right to violate a child, whether it's physically or otherwise. And this is what we're seeing. If there are, in fact, gangs, then we need to know that. To how do we deal with it? Because it wouldn't just go away, Marcia. It just doesn't just go away. We have to deal with those matters head on, so that our children could be safe, and those that are involved, they get the intervention that is required for them, because there is hope. We cannot just discard them and just throw them aside. There's still young persons that can be rehabilitated. So we cannot just dismiss those children that are engaging in those actions. But if we don't intervene early, Marcia, this is where we're going to have the problems with. And I think the time is now for parents to stand up and request that the Ministry of Education does its job.
Yes.
We're not saying it for any political accolades or anything of that. We're saying it because it is necessary at this point. And I'm saying it and I'm appealing to parents. What I observed when I went across the island looking at schools, I think the ministry need to do the same thing. Go around in every school, every single school, and ensure that the school is safe and conducive for all children, not just some. We cannot have an environment where some students or some schools have security and others don't.
Mm-hmm.
What are we saying to the children at the school? What are we saying to the teachers? That they don't need security as well? They do not need to be safe at their schools? And I think that the president of the teachers union gave over 20 schools without security. And the parents, you see it. You go to the schools, you recognize there are no security guards. Things are not the way that it used to be. I know we have been in a society where it has been fairly safe, but it's not as safe as it was a few years ago. And that is the reality. That is the reality that we have to deal with. And we have to face the reality that our children's life may be at danger every day they go to school. That's a reality. But we have to put in the measures to prevent any casualties that would happen or occur to our children. And we need to, of course, speak to our children, have a communication and open communication with our children. We need to know what is happening to them when they go to school. Speak to your children. They will tell you. They will tell you what is going on, so that you'll be able to call at least the school or the PT and say, listen, something may have happened. Let's see how we can work with it. Because at the end of the day, we are one people. We are one society. We are one family. We can come together and resolve some of the problems that we have, because it doesn't seem the ministry want to help us resolve them.
Yeah. You know, we
So
have some
parents
great
have to take the mantle.
suggestions. Yeah, we have some great suggestions that's in the chat, but it's going so fast I can't get to pick up on all of them. But one of the things that this person says, I'm saying what happened to my son after he defended himself. He was hauled to the office and threatened with expulsion. Then he named the teacher he complained to who substantiated his claim. Now, this is what I'm saying, that we do not have, or we're not putting into place we don't have a system. How do we deal with bullying in the schools? I have had a young girl who comes to our dance school, and the entire year she was bullied. And she was a brilliant student, and they were bullying her because she was bright. You know, we see that happen all the time. Last summer I was here, and a parent brought a child here, a very, very bright child, and came and sat in my house here, and the little girl broke down crying. Why was she crying? There was somebody who was in the school whose parent, her grandparent, is very high up in government, and the teachers and that child, they're so tight. She could go in the principal's office and do whatever, but that child was beating up the other children at the school. And those kids complained to the principal, they complained to the teachers, and they did nothing to that little girl. She pulled their hair, she beat them up, she told them terrible things and had those children crying. But nothing was done to that bully. I had to threaten the parents who came. I said, you told me the name of this this person. That's the wrong thing you did. If you don't go to them, because they are not, the parent is also scared to go to this official. I said, absolutely not. You know where they live. You go there and let them know what is happening. You talk to the principal, nothing has happened. And you know what? When they went and spoke to the official and a relative of a relative, and then they got to the official, you know that they reprimanded that girl and the bullying stopped. But they were not getting any help in the school. Because why? That official helps the school. That official takes care of things at the school for them when they have a fundraiser. So they don't want to upset that child's grandparent when that child is terrorizing the rest of the children in the school. The teachers and the principal did nothing. And the child was tormented. Her grades fell and everything. She didn't have any cuts on her body, but you beat her in her head, push her, all these kinds of things that happen. And it's happening too many times in our schools. The same boy at Alexandra school who got stabbed, a parent called me 2 days ago and said when their child was in first form, he beat up a throw down to push a child down and tried to take away their lunch money. He's been there and carrying on this thing for years. So what is the system in the school to deal with the bullying in the school? So this parent springtime is right. A lot of times nothing is being done until that child takes the matter in their hands, which you don't want to happen.
Well, Master, as I said, is a very, very unfortunate situation when these things happen. And I do know that there are anti-bullying programs at schools. I do know that I believe that there's an organization that takes care of that. And I think the government has been funding, but they do have those programs. But we cannot forget that those bullies, as they are, that they too need the intervention. They're young people. So they need intervention. If they need to be rehabilitated, their behavior, they need to be called out on their behavior. Somebody has to do it, and we cannot continue to put it under the carpet and assume that it will go away. Because you know what happens to bullies when they're young? They develop to be adult bullies. That's all that happens, and it becomes worse. And I just want everyone to understand that even us as adults, when we are bullied, we almost know how it feels as an adult. So we can almost imagine how children feel when it happens to them. And they're even more vulnerable than we as adults. So I think that the whole society has to look at in terms of we're telling children do not bully each other in schools, but at the same time we have adults on social media that are bullying other adults because they may have other political persuasions or whatever that it is, but they do it openly. And I think that is the problem that we have. If we are dealing with those problems, we have to tell, and I think parents as well, if you know that the child engages in the act, please, it's not something good because psychological bullying, physical bullying is just as bad. It's just as bad. We have to change and reshape how we deal with each other, particularly in the world and the space that we are living right now. We have a better knowledge of how the impact of psychological abuse, because bullying is a form of abuse, and we have to accept that. So when we do it and we allow children to do it, or we have other persons doing it, it's not right. It's not right. It's unethical, and it's not a form of. It's not appropriate behavior. And so, if parents, you recognize that the ministry and the teachers and the principal is not taking your case serious, I would advise you to go to an attorney. Get your legal attorneys, or get someone, or contact me, because it is against your right. It's against the rights of your child. It is a form of abuse. Abuse is not only for adults. If a child is abusing another, you have a legitimate right to speak up and say, listen, if you're not taking this matter serious, I'm going to the legal authorities. We have to take this matter very serious because we have seen what it has done. And the reality in Barbados, we have had children that has died on school compounds. That is a reality. So we have to deal with it. We cannot continue in that light. This is the second week of school, and we've had 2 violent incidents in schools. And if that has not been a awakening call for all adults in this society, I don't know what would. We have to change the way that we think. We have to ensure that we are the role models for our children, that we speak to our children. And even if they're not our children, if you see a child behaving a particular way, I know a lot of persons say they are adults that, parents may not want people to talk to the children. But if I see a child that is doing something wrong, I will tell them, listen, young man, or listen, young lady, this is not cool. This is not a cool behavior. You don't do that. It's hurtful. So even just by saying it, they may check themselves or they may not. But the majority of times when adults speak to some children, they do listen. But it's all in terms of the approach and how you approach them and how you speak to them. You don't demeanor them in any way, because they're human beings and they have feelings as well. So I think there's a lot that we can do as a society that we can come together and just work together to make these things a lot more better for our young persons.
Yes. And I mean, this person is saying springtime that the bullying was so bad that their child did not even go to graduation. Did you see? And this is the thing, springtime, that why Miss Dujon, and I'm speaking up for her because what I love about what Miss Dujon does is that she gets up off of her laurels and she goes where the issues are. She goes down to Alexandra's school. She's not sitting and waiting for somebody to tell her anything. And she's reporting on it, and people are teasing her. When you're saying here, because of bullying, your son did not go to graduation. Can you imagine? Think about that. Huh? Her son could not go to graduation because he was being bullied at the school. The little girl, I told you about, the wonderful little girl, very, very smart, and her grades dropped. She was getting in the 90s, go down to 70s because she was scared to go to school because of that uptown bully that was bullying her, right? Because they're not all people in what you would call ghetto communities. You have those that they believe that they have power because of who their parents are, and then they bully people, right? So the question is, the thing is that we have to take it seriously, and here it is. Mr. John made mention of this on Facebook, and Peter Wickham, I'm going to call his name because I'm really not afraid. Peter Wickham decided to make fun of Dujon. And what was he making fun of? Her accent, because she said bullying, and it sounds like she was saying bullying. So Peter Wickham decides to take a clip out of what Mr. John said and start to make fun to ask who is bullying the children. Teasing that because her accent, yes, she was born in St. Lucia, and her accent is different from yours, Peter Wickham. And she said, she's saying bullying, but it sounds like she's saying bullying. So he makes a joke of it, and everybody's starting to tease Miss Dujon online, saying she's saying people bullying the children. And if she was even saying that, is that something for you to tease people? You're talking about children and bullying in the same sentence, and you thought that what it was, Peter Wickham? And you, of all persons, you should know the difference between bullying and bullying. And you can all come for me. You, of all people, should know the difference between bullying and bullying. And you think that is funny. And yes, there are people in this country who are bullying boys, officials, politicians. So she wasn't far-fetched, but that's not what she was saying. And you're so irresponsible, Peter Wickham, that instead of dealing with the situation where the child being bullied and stabbed, bullied, and they put them across the thing, right? Right, bullied and they bully him across the thing and killed him, huh? Disgraceful of you, Peter Wickham. That's all you could see. You didn't foresee that somebody was going to be stabbed at Garrison, or the little boy who died at Alexandra School the other day. A couple years ago, from First Son, where they're bullying him and he run across the road. Some of you, all the only bullying that you want people to talk about is when boys are in school, or if somebody is transgender and everybody decide to bullying them. That is wrong too, but that's not the only bullying there is. A lot of you in the LGBTQ community, that's the only time you want to recognize bullying. When it has to do with children who say they're coming out and the rest of the children turn on them, which is bad too. But that's not the only form of bullying. You're disgraceful. disgrace. And your friends can go back and tell that I said that as an adult. What you should do is to use your platform to find out about the bullying in the schools and stop with your disgraceful self. I thought that was so low. Teasing somebody over their accent.
But the work continues, Marcia. The work continues, and it does not, and it should not stop us, because at the end of the day, we know that righteousness exalts the nation, and that's what we have to do. That we have to continue doing what is required of us as children of God, and ensure that we protect the children. We protect the children. So, regardless of what is happening within society and whether I'm part of a political party, I will continue to speak on behalf of children, on behalf of parents, and to ensure that everybody's their voices are heard. People are hurting in this country. And it really hurts my heart when I got that message tonight that another child has been stabbed. Because we know what it feels like. Anyone who's around children, what do you want? You want to see your child goes to school and come back safe. That's the reality that some parents now have to be triggered by, knowing that something can happen in school and it may be their child. And I don't know what the ministry is waiting for to implement safer school policies at schools. I have given them at least 4 approaches. I'm just waiting to see what they will do. I noticed that they had a meeting today with the teachers at the Alexander School. So I'm hoping that all schools can get some kind of intervention to know what should we do in cases of emergency, what should we do in cases of children bullying each other, what should we do? Is there a protocol for it? Are there processes? Are there procedures? And how do we follow up? If a child comes to you, do you follow up? Do you contact the parent? Do you ensure that that child feels comfortable at school? It's a learning environment. They spend so much time in that environment. We just want children to go to school and be happy, Be happy and learn. That's all we want. That's all we expect, that the environment and the ministry ensure that this environment is that kind of environment for them, that it's a safe and happy and loving environment. And anything that risks that environment, we need to deal with it and tackle it head on. And I think this is what is frustrating parents at this point, that the ministry is not listening and the ministry is, just trivializing everything. Could you imagine? Again, we had this stabbing at the school at Alexander, and I did not see any official at the school. A stabbing. It's like I'm standing there waiting. I was like, I'm just going to wait and see what is. Nobody showed up. I don't know if they did and they were in the car, but nobody did. It's unfortunate that this is how we treat young persons, and we do not understand the impact that it has on their psyche, on their minds. They have to return in that environment. When we start trivializing violence, we become a society where violence is accepted. This is what is happening right now. And we cannot have a generation that believes that violence is the norm. We cannot normalize violence in any form. No matter how simple somebody, and I remember somebody saying that, it's just a little stab he get. A little stab? Tell that to the parent. Tell that to the child. Tell that to his peers that witnessed it. These are the realities that we have to deal with, Marcia. And it's just, I would urge parents to stand up and demand accountability from the ministry. Demand it.
Yeah,
Call them up and tell them, what are you doing for my school? Call them. Write to them. See what is happening. When you go to the school, if you get the opportunity for the PTA, speak about it.
Yes.
It is your right.
Yeah. Guys, the lines are open. Well, the line and not lines. We only have one line. So feel free to call in and with what are your suggestions on how to deal with bullying in the school? So we've talked about the problem. But what do you have any suggestions on how to deal with bullying? Somebody who is not able to call in. He is saying here, let me just read. Good evening, Mrs. Weeks. We need preventative measures to save the children from themselves. early intervention is needed. However, the idea of having increased security of schools with minor children should not be reactive and not be haphazard. And that's what Miss DeJean is talking about. So let me see if I can catch his call here tonight. Yes, good night, caller. Welcome to the Marcy Week Show. If you could just turn down your devices or turn off your devices. Good night. Welcome to the Marcy Week Show.
I used listening to you. I don't want to be truthful. Your show is a very nice show. And if Mr. Peter Wickham get a goddamn things, that is not nice. Because Mr. Peter Wickham is a nasty man.
All right, okay, all right. Hold it. Don't call him any names on here. Okay, keep going. Yeah.
Okay, but he shouldn't be doing that. He should be helping the children that are going to school.
Yes, agree.
And don't try to put things on the negative side.
Correct.
That is wrong. Yes. But you continue with the show, and God will bless you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Any suggestions on how to deal with the bullying in the schools?
Well, my suggestion is that the parents have to go down by all the schools and let the teachers and the principals know what they stand for, and when the children come to school, they want the children come back once a year.
Yes.
Because that was my choice. As a body was kept my choice here and do it, so I will not be pleased.
Yes.
I will not be pleased.
Yes.
It is time that this government come out and put hands down and help the children.
Yes.
This government sleeping.
Yes, sleeping. Yes. Thank you so much, caller.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. Yes. The caller is right. It's time for the parents. It's the caller saying what you are saying. Mr. John, another caller is calling. Good night, caller. Welcome to the Marcia Week Show.
Good night. I'm going to
wait. Let me 1 second. Say good night again, please.
Good night, everyone.
Yes, we're hearing you now. It was my fault. Welcome. It's so good to hear you.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, I'm going to speak about what I did as a teacher to prevent bullying.
Yes.
Okay. Every school year, beginning of every school year, I would have pamphlets for my year group.
Mm-hmm.
And we would get together and we would discuss what was in the pamphlets. It dealt with bullying, the types of bullying, and how to deal with bullying.
Mm-hmm.
And we would get the parents involved. So the pamphlets had to go to the parents. They signed that they saw, and the students kept those pamphlets in a folder,
mm-hmm.
and they kept that with them every day they came to school.
Right.
We dealt with bullying. Students come, report bullying. We went and we dealt with it. When I was on the compound, I got the reputation as being a tearhead teacher. So no one bullied my students because they knew that I was going to come for them. I wasn't waiting on a deputy principal, nor was I waiting for the principal.
So before you go on, you're talking and I'm writing down some questions here, and I don't know if Mr. John has any questions to the caller. I want to know what form was that? What form were you teaching?
I taught from first to fourth, and that is how I dealt with every one of them.
First to fourth, and so you had a no tolerance for bullying.
Yes.
By your students or to your students.
Correct.
And you did that by creating, you communicated, you educated the students on what bullying is, and you had a pamphlet that you gave them so that everybody knew how to identify it and what to do.
Yes. Yes. And other teachers saw it, and they would come and ask if they could photocopy it for their students, and that's how it got around the school. So we didn't have the issue that much with bullying. And the late former principal, he was very pleased because he didn't have to deal with those issues. It was dealt with at the teacher's level and the senior teacher's level. It never went to him or his deputy.
Oh, wow. And they call you the tearhead teacher.
Yeah.
The tearhead, because you didn't have to hit the people, children, but you developed, you had such an authority about what you did that they knew that you can't bully any of my students in my class, right?
You can't get away with it. I would go for you. I would demand whatever you took from my students, you give it back to me. Or we go into the police station and we can have a little chat.
Wow, interesting. So
not that I could take them to the police station, mind you, but that was just a threat.
You use that as a threat. Yeah, you have to use what you can. And did you at any point involve the parents of any of these children in what was happening?
Yes, I held the parents responsible.
How did you do that?
I would call the parents and I would speak to the parents and I would explain to the parents what their child was doing. And I usually write everything. I used to write everything in a blue book. So once they see me bring up my blue book, they know that I given them chapter and verse. So it was time, date, and everything that I was giving them.
Okay.
And I would inform the parents, the onus was on you now to deal with it. Because if it came back to me, I was going to advise the parent of the child, the victim, to seek legal representation.
Oh wow, you were serious. So
I don't take those things lightly.
Wow. So here we have Mr. John. You're listening. You're an educator.
Right.
John,
I would like to. Yes. I would like to applaud the teacher. Thank you for sharing that experience with us, because I think a lot of teachers do have the interest of the students. And as I said before, as long as there is a procedure, there's accountability, that you ensure that you record what is happening so that you can show the child, because as I said before, we're dealing with a young person. Sometimes just poor judgment allows them to do quite a number of things. And many of the times we're dealing with teenagers. And so it's really to show them accountability for the actions and perhaps redress. How do you tone the behavior? So it's very important that we do that. Thank you very much for working hard with our students.
Yes.
Thank you.
Along
in the system, so.
Yes. Wow. Thank you so much. I mean, that makes a lot of sense, and it's a no nonsense and there's no tolerance. No nonsense approach to the children. So what about if you found children in your class that was bullying others from other classes?
Oh, no. Never happened. They didn't want me finding out. If I found out, they were dealt with very harshly. And when I spoke to their parents, because their parents knew what I stood for, as their form teacher and subject teacher, no.
Did not do it. Wow. Wow. That is commendable. Well, thank you so very much for sharing that with us.
You're most welcome.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Good evening.
Wow, that's a good one there. Guys, the number is let me see, it should still be up on the screen. That you can call in. We want to hear from you. Your parents, are you experiencing bullying? Your child is experiencing bullying. Was it that your child was a bully? Was your child a bully? Was your child a bully? And how did you, if so, how did you speak to your child? How did you get your child to stop bullying people? Because we're not all victims here. Some of us are, some of our children, let's be honest, right? Anybody, people saying excellent teacher? Anybody else want to call in? Call in, please. Let me just finish reading what this person sent me who is not able to call in. So I'm reading what they sent me. A parent and others would also want to know that there are background checks conducted on all school security officers, advanced training of security officers to operate in a school environment with minors. Yes, I agree that all officers are exposed and trained in the use of technology available, having additional resources in the close proximity to respond to incidents in a timely manner. So that's what we're saying, that you need to have some kind of communication with the parents on how you're going to do the searches, and well, who are the people doing the searches. It's not that it shouldn't be done, and it's not that you're waiting to get permission from the parents. It's just by way of information and to cover yourselves as well. And that's what they do. We say we're first world, right? And we're a progressive nation. That's what is done. It's not asking the parents permission, but it's informing them and letting them know who is doing. Is it the police that is doing it? Are you getting a security guard? Supposing it is somebody that started to beat up the children and so on. You see what I mean? You've got to come clean and tell us who is doing what, when and all of that. Okay, we have a caller, Mr. John. Good night. Welcome to the Marcia Reed Show.
Hi, good night. Good night. Good night, Marcia. How are you doing?
I am doing great. Thanks for calling. What are your thoughts on this bullying situation in school? Any suggestions?
Well, the suggestions that I can make, are that first of all, we need to have a sit down with both the teachers and the parents, because you have to detect where this attitude for bullying started from. Because they have different levels of bullying. You have cyberbullying, then you have the bullying in person. Especially if a young person is timid and they don't come into the school, and you get the lunch takeaway and stuff like that. You have to address the aggressive behavior that you see currently going on in the schools. And I think that not enough is being done to address this. Hence why you're getting all these issues and challenges in the school. So the people that are in authority, because if you agree with me that there are the parents away from the actual parents themselves, when the children are in their care, they are responsible.
Yes.
They're ultimately responsible for the children's keeping and well-being.
Yes.
And as we would have seen so far, okay, as the sports person on education, Congress John would have pointed out, we don't see that happening, and that is what I think we need to start there. Once we are willing to start there, we can control the bullying, have bring in a counselor and have them talk to them and ask them, so why do you think there's a need for you to be bullying? Were you bullied when you were young at home? So, you got no way it started from. And just start, I come into school and I was a big bad bully. Something had to happen in that young person's life, either in their home or in their community, that would have led up to this point. So we have to establish that. And I believe once we establish that, Marcia, we can actually detect the problem and bring a solution to deal with that problem, to remove that problem. But
Yes.
unless you're willing to do that, it will continue.
Yes.
It will continue.
Yes.
What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts?
No, totally agree with you that you have to get to the source of the problem, and that's why I asked if there was a parent who had someone complained, the teachers complained that their child was bullying others, to find out what did you do. How did you get the bully in your home to be reformed and stop bullying people? So I'm in total agreement with you. Thank you so much for calling.
You're welcome.
Yes, thank you. Mr. John, I think it's as the caller was saying, a lot of times, these people who've been bullied, there are things that's happening to who are bullies that have happened in their own homes, right?
Correct. And the research shows that as well. I mean, there are quite a number of anti-bullying programs, like the OVS program. There are a number of programs that looks in terms of the research, what we call the cycle of abuse or cycle of violence, and how it exhibits itself, how it displays itself in different characteristics in different ways. But as I said before, we cannot do things like how we used to do it 40 years ago. We have to do it in a very strategic way, and ensure the way that we do it, that it's followed by and backed by research. So see what is happening, why students are behaving the way that it is, what triggers them, because sometimes it may be various entities, it may be various environments that triggers the behavior. Because sometimes we may think a child is bullying because they were just being mean and evil and just bad. But sometimes it could be more than that. That child may be being abused and we do not know. And perhaps that's how they exhibit that kind of behavior. So it's really a matter of the ministry taking note of that. And I do know that they've had a call to place violent students in a particular school. But again, that will stigmatize the students. I believe if we have the interventions, if we recognize that there's certain students that have antisocial behaviors, that the intervention is necessary for them. We have
Yes.
trained counselors, we have trained guide person psychologists that can deal with that. We just have to ensure that we do things in a very systematic way. We use the research that is required or research that is needed. We use various types of programs. They are programs that we can implement in schools. But the reality is that we are not willing to do that because we do not believe that our children deserve it. And this is what we're seeing. We have a government that believes that.
Mr. John, if we could just take a pause there.
Yeah,
We
sure,
have a caller, so we want to
sure.
let's just hear, and I hope you could remember your point and then state it afterwards. Good night, caller. Welcome to the Marcia Beach Show.
It's good night, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
I just want to make a short point. What we continue to do as a country is focus on mainly 11 and up as it relates to children. But what the country is not, or pretend that it doesn't want to deal with, is that there are a lot of primary school gangsterism that is not addressed. And a lot of the teachers at the primary schools also, not only the secondary school teachers, a lot of the primary school teachers are literally cordoned off by sometimes, not always, very much gangsterism. Parents who would threaten them and tell them, don't talk to my child in this way, or don't do this and that and the third. So once we are looking at issues that are happening at secondary school, a child does not start threatening and taking away lunch and being very devious like that out the blue. So what has to happen is that the conversation has to start, and the inspection of, as it relates to, even from as early as age 6, 7, going up to 11, children that literally lick the fuzzing out of others and give them a lot of unlucky blows, and nothing comes out of it, or things that really are out the norm as it relates to physical and things like that. So you cannot just address violence in children only at the secondary level.
Yes.
Right. It must be the primary school. The whole system has to be addressed and better monitored from that stance.
Yes. Very good point. Thank you so much for calling, sir. Thank you.
Sure.
Yes. Mr. John, you heard what the caller is saying, that we have to not just look at it. We're seeing the manifestation at the secondary level. But your children are in primary school, and I'm sure you know that you have some of that going on there as well.
But as I said before, school students, I still look at all students as students, regardless of the age group. We could also say primary, preschool or nursery as well, because we have children that just want to hate and display that kind of anti-social behavior at a very early age. But the point is the intervention that is necessary. And we deal with it at what we would say age specific. So you're not going to deal with a teenager as opposed to deal with a preteen, an 8 or 7-year-old. So the intervention must be necessary and deals with it at the age of the child. So I believe, as I said before, I am not a trained child psychologist. I know there are plenty of child psychologists in our country. Some of them are willing to volunteer. Some of them are willing to come in and assist the ministry if they cannot afford it. But we need to get it done. And yes, I do support what the colleges said in terms of violence at primary school level. I did attend NAPSAC, was it this year? And at the security booth, they had almost shoe boxes of Caesars, different types of Caesars. So I asked the security guard, where did they get it? They're like, Mom, what do you think? I was like, these are primary school's children. They tell me, yes, this is where it's coming from. So there's a lot of conversation that we have to deal with. We have to recognize also that we're dealing, and I do not like doing that, but it's a different generational shift. What we were thinking perhaps as primary school children is not the same right now. So we have to deal with the period that we're dealing with and make sure that our children, all children, receive the type of intervention, and try not to blame them, because the role for adults is really to provide guidance. We're not there to punish children. We can punish them, but we have to guide them because they don't know better. We only punish when we think they know better. We have to guide them. So for us to say, well, an 8-year-old know better and a 16-year, no, they don't. They might have not even fully developed. So we have to deal with them and bring the intervention. As I said before, it's poor judgment. Even we as adults, we make poor judgment all the time. So we can imagine young people. We just have to provide the guidance for them. Do not ignore them, which is very important, because sometimes we say, well, that child's going to be bad anymore anyway, so just leave them. And it's not going to help, because what is happening, that same child will turn out to be one of the major hardcore criminals in society that will affect the entire society. And this is what they say. If you do not focus on the young at this point, they will burn down the city. So we need to do what is necessary, bring the intervention, listen to them, communicate with them, provide them the guidance, because we are here. We have lived their journey, so we can provide the intervention. Speak with them so that they can navigate. The majority of children do not know how to navigate in this world right now. We have to help them. We have to show them the path, show them the right path, so that they can make better judgments when they get to the point where they have to make decisions. We have to help them with that, because the majority of times we're not with our children. So how do they make decisions?
Yeah.
So that's one of the things we have to teach them.
That we have to do that. And because you're part of the society, Tamika Harper is saying the whole society seems to be so hostile, angry, quick to lash out. Looks like we all need therapy at this point. It's the strangest thing to observe. I agree. You're not that we all need therapy. I don't know how is that going to happen, but it is true that the society seems to be very hostile, very angry, and it's like everybody, that is what is happening, and we're seeing it. School has just started like 2 weeks, and look at what is happening. A school had to be closed twice this week because of violence in the school. Think about that. A parent is going into a school to threaten a teacher, and in this time when a parent is going to threaten, listen, this is not just probably they might just slap the teacher in the face, although that is bad, but somebody might pull out a gun. We never know. Somebody here wrote, they said teachers can't authorize teachers to assist in searches, as they have the power of a constable when searches are carried out. And they're saying if you notify the parents, it would make no sense, as this is done randomly at the school plan. Now, when I say to notify the parent, I'm not saying that each time you're going to do a search, you're going to make an announcement of it. What I'm saying, the whole talk about searching children, you understand? We can't just get up and do it. That needs to be discussed at PTA, so you get the buy-in and the when I say the buy-in, because you don't need their permission to do it. But the best way to do things is have a discussion about it. Let there be communication going out. Send out a memo. That from time to time searches will be done. These are the people who will be doing the searches, whether it's a community police officers, or we're going to hire security guards, something like that. Or the teachers, senior teachers will be trained on how to search. You know what I'm saying, Mr. John? Let there be communication so that
no. I don't understand. It is the parents' right to know. Nothing can be done to children without informing the parents. It's the law. Parents need to know. So we don't have to tell parents each and every day, but I think it would be respectful and out of dignity that you tell parents we're going to be searching the children. Just remind them that they will be searched, and ensure that they know to come on time, and basic things like that. This is we need to communicate with that because it's their right. It is their children, and they should know what are the procedures so that they can talk to their children. And Marcia, I think sometimes we tend to forget that children are still human beings. And could you just imagine randomly, like what happened at Alexander? We just decide to search children. It can traumatize some people.
Well, I mean,
It can traumatize some people.
I think though that it
Yes.
could be it's on the let us because we need to every time we speak about it, we have to be very clear on what it's that we're saying. It is understandable that you're going to want to search the students there to ensure that everybody else is safe. That we because something happened. But what is very important is the way how things are done. And I think that is what we are all saying because sometimes I think people are not hearing what is being said because we trivialize rights in this country, in the Caribbean. Human rights, the only people that have human rights in this region are people are the LGBTQ community. That's the only time we associate rights with people. But when you talk about parental rights and the rights of children and so on, people don't want to hear that. But it is, but Felicia, as a human rights activist, she's correct. I also do agree with the person who said that you can't tell the parents every time that there should be a general understanding that we do have random checks at this school. Within the school system, this is what we do in order to protect the students. These are the measures that we have in place. So we understand that there'll be random checks. You talk to your children. If I knew that and I have boy children or girl children, I'm going to talk to them. Remember, they have random checks at school. Make sure what is in your bag. As a parent, Mr. John, I'm going to be searching them bags before they get into the car or wherever they're
Yeah.
going. You understand? Because I know they're not going to
Correct.
share me. I'm going to jail.
Correct. And I think that everybody understands that. The majority of us grew up with very strict parents, very extremely strict parents. And it's the same thing that you know that you want your child to be safe, so you do the things and also for the child to understand why they're doing it. We don't just do things to children. We explain to them why we are doing this. You don't just decide, oh, just come, get on the line, we're searching you, as if they have no cognitive understanding, as if they're not human beings, that they're just cattle, and you just, put them on a line. No, you speak with them and explain to them, this is what is happening. We just want to secure your safety. And that's as simple as it is. But you are right, Marcia, in highlighting the leadership of this country and how it trivializes parental rights. And we've saw that in the Child Protection Bill and other bills that are trying to restrict the rights of citizens, the rights of liberty, the right to speak. And so that is the issue as well, that how we see leadership within society. Yes, we're seeing everybody is agitated, everybody's anxious, there's a lot of anxiety because of the economy, because of the state of affairs of the country. But at the same time, we've seen a prime minister that's just flying all over the world as if nothing is happening within at home when we have serious issues here. So I don't want to go too much into that matter, but it's a reality. I want parents to have faith, to stay strong, because it's not easy for us at this point. It's really not easy, the conditions that we are living right now under this government. As I said before, what we're seeing in school is a symptom of society. We're seeing what is happening in terms of violent crimes. And Marcia, you had to walk in Wellington. You've seen what is happening. We've had double murders. Every week we have had a murder. Like, could you imagine how it affects young people when
Yes.
they see these things and when they know these things are happening in their societies, in their communities? We have to tell them we are trying our best to make things better. That's what we need to be doing, telling them that things will be better. We want things to be better for you. And I think this is what propels me, regardless of all the attacks on me. I want things to be better for my children and for your children because it cannot continue that way.
You
It
know
just
that,
cannot.
that's the thing. I want to say to Barbadians because it has happened to me before. I remember, Mr. John, when I was working with a lot with the secondary schools through my movies and so on. And when I started to highlight some of what I was seeing in the secondary schools, and I was home at my house, and a reporter drove from Bridgetown to St. Philip to interview me in my house. And she wrote and she put what I saw. I was just being honest and saying what I saw. Listen, Barbadians almost tore me apart. I could not believe it. Thank God it wasn't the time where social media was, but they were commenting on the article on the internet. And people, I mean, 90 some percent, they were saying I was telling a lie. What I was telling them, what I saw, the behaviors that I saw, children were pregnant at school. Children were pregnant, and we had to drive them home from the cinema to their parents. Children were being raped by teachers, and I was saying the things, and the people, they said that I was telling lies. There were adult women and adult men in the society that were picking up children after school and all of these things, and the girls were telling us adult lesbians who were paying for girls and taking care of girls because I said it. They said I was telling lies. And that's why I come out in your defense, Mr. John, because I know how we can be. The moment somebody lifts up the covers, if Miss Bradshaw didn't come out and talk about the bullying at that school, if you didn't come out, Miss Dujon, right, and if those that called me from the school and we didn't talk to the parent at the school, to the child at the school, we would just think that nobody would know that there was a gang at Alexandra School and that the bullying is coming from the gang. Who would know that? They would not know that. But if one person comes up and says it, they're going to say the person is telling a lie.
Yes? I just think that, and it's very difficult because when you think about it, it's the strain is going to be on young persons, and I know parents can be very alarmed knowing these things and hearing it, but it's the reality that your child has to deal with every day. So it's better that you know exactly, and I think that's what I did. I risk, and I want to be that very clear, Marcia, that I did risk going to the schools a few weeks before the reopening of schools. Why? Because as far as they know, I need to get permission to go at schools when there's no one at the school. But I did it because I wanted parents to know exactly what is happening so that they can agitate and get better for their children. So when I went to those schools, I did inform the public weeks before that there's no security fencing. We need to take care of the schools before the students return. It was not an issue that you're doing this because you want to do it. No, I don't really want to do it, but it has to be done because I want better for everybody that's around me, for every child that is around me, for any child that goes back into school. As a teacher myself, I would not want to be in an environment which is not conducive for learning, not for myself, nor my students. I want to be somewhere that is safe for myself and for my students. And so when we come out, it's really about ensuring that I know. And one of the challenges that I believe that the ministry does not understand the majority of times, and I think it almost that's if that we have to tell them. Many parents are at work. They go to work. Most of them are not at home. So it's very important that when you make decisions that you understand that parents are at work, and sometimes you may have to do things a little better in terms of how you communicate with them. Okay, canceling schools when parents are at work and they do not know. The children that were online that morning, they went home and parents at work. And they took my phone. I'm going to call my mom because some of them didn't have cell phones. They're like, Mom, I'm going home because we don't know what is happening because it's total chaos. We don't know how long we'll be on that line. We might be there until 3 o'clock. And so the reality is that these are the kinds of things that we need the ministry to understand. We know it's a very difficult environment. It's a very stressful environment. We know the Ministry of Education and how much they have to work, and it's not to tap on the civil servants. I'm dealing primarily with the policy makers, the minister responsible for education. You have to take those matters seriously. These are people's children, and people are sensitive by the children, very sensitive, and parents work. And I did hear the PTA, national PTA president saying that parents should come and help. Parents do help. They do help. They work those jobs and they still get the time to do whatever the school requires of them to do. So it is sad that at this point that we do not understand the roles of parents and understanding and helping parents to do what they have to do. And it's also parents recognizing that it's also your duty to ensure that the school is safe when I send my children to the school. So we have to look at and do things in terms of remembering that it is a service that we provide in education. Ministry is a service that you're giving to students and to parents. So let us do it better for them. Let us do it in a way that we would feel comfortable, because I don't think anyone in that ministry would want to be in an environment where every other day somebody's stabbing in their workplace. Ask them that question. How would you feel if you were at work and somebody decides to stab each other at work, or somebody decides to breach security at work? How would you feel? So it's very similar to how children would feel or how teachers would feel in those environments. So let's
Yes.
try to make it a little safer for everyone.
And while we close, and something that we did not make very clear, and it just came to me that in the spirit of truthfulness, because people might not understand, the little boy that had the cuts on his face, that what I was told by reliable sources is that there was a game that they were playing at the school, right? And he somehow, it is some game that has to do with money. They had to win money, all right? And that is how we ended up. Because I guess, the others, they're playing, I don't know, but that's how we ended up. The point is, when you have, and we're going to talk about that another time, when you have in a society when we're playing for money, you see, and this is part of it. And there again, you're going to say, oh, you're talking about the prime minister, but everything is not about money. But when that is what we're exhibiting from the top all the way down. So here, these little boys, it's basically gambling. And that's how he ended up. The parents sent him to school, and look at how he's going home, full of cuts. Okay? So we don't know if they gang up on him because he won the money, or what the case is. We don't know how, I don't know. We don't know all the facts, but that's what the parents sent. The point is that one child is leaving school that way. What if the child had lost an eye? And under who would be responsible? The children that are there under the care of the the teachers in the school. What about the supervision? All of these things that we have to take into consideration. So I just needed to clarify that it is not a surety that it was that particular thing was direct bullying, as it was that they were playing a game for money. And what it could have been is that he probably won the money. Probably. But the point is that he's in school and come home with cuts in his face. Yeah. So guys, this is where we end. We're 10:06. And I think that a discussion like this, as I said, it was going to be a family discussion. Is important, and it's just the tip of the iceberg. We need to look in the homes, look at families, look at seeing what happens in the bully's home, right? And how to strengthen our children against bullies. That's a whole nother discussion as well. Mr. John, thank you so much for joining us
Thank
tonight.
you so much, Marcia. Thank you very much, and continue the hard work. And for your audience, please continue to empower children by reminding them that they have rights, they are children of God, and we continue to pray for them, pray over them, and pray for our
Yes.
country.
Yes, and discipline them as well. So we're going to play. I guess, Dave, thank you. We will end with this positive note here from St. Leonard's Boys School.
Father God, We gather here today before each individual here goes to school. And we ask that as they journey to school, that you safeguard their lives, that you secure their lives, and that you get them to school safely. We pray, Lord, that as they're in school, that they will learn something. And as they left school to journey to their households or to their mothers and fathers, that you protect them. Father God, we can see that there's an upsurgence in violence in our nation. And if we look at the statistics, the youth is who committing these serious crimes. So we believe, Lord, that our grandparents and parents are not the persons to heal this nation. We can't ask them to go to church and pray for their children because one praying for five. Yes, we know you're almighty and we know you're all knowing. We know that you can answer one prayer, but let us pray for ourselves. Let us heal this nation ourselves. That is our brethren and our families and our relatives that are involved in these violence. I pray, Lord, that you help us and that you eradicate violence completely and that you heal this nation from what is going on. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Amen. That's a great way
Amen.
to
Yes,
end. Are we
amen.
playing any tunes tonight, Dave? Okay, this is how we are going to end tonight. Okay. God bless you, and
God
we will
bless
see you
you.
again on Sunday.
Good
Thank
night.
you, Mr. John. Thank you,
Good
Dave.
night. God
Thank
bless
you
you.
to Umar
God
Abdullah. Thank you to Pastor John Carter, who was on talking about the 10 million points of light. Thank you so much. God bless you all. Have a good night. Bye bye.